He's already singing. Stop singing.
I was providing a beat for him.
No, he's doing one. That wasn't even the same beat as what he was doing. Welcome, everybody, to Badonkagonk,
Hello.
a Star Wars podcast where we talk about Star Wars.
Huh?
Who would have thought?
Oh, I would think it. I thought it. That's why we have this show.
So today on the podcast, we're going to be having a book that we talk about, Lords of the Sith.
Lords of the Sith.
And also because of that, we're also going to be talking about some of our favorite Palpatine.
Excuse me, Darth Sidious.
Sheev
Palpatine. Yeah, all right, we'll arrive there.
Moments. And we also have one more subject that we're going to talk about a little bit too. So, and then we'll have another Badonkagonk coming in December. Just so I don't forget to announce it later. That will be on December 14th. Before we end up having any Christmas break stuff here.
Gotcha.
At Blind Wave. So.
Sounds good.
So yeah.
And then also, if you want to throw in some questions or anything like that, we can probably throw some in
questions.
At the end. But, you know, we often run out of time, so we might not get to it. Who knows?
Could take one.
We might get to one.
We tend to talk a lot.
All right, Aaron, what do you want to go to first? Because I have a lot to talk about with all this stuff.
With all this stuff?
Yeah.
Should we do book first?
Book? Yes, let's do the book first. This is Lords of the Sith Review.
Yes. This was I went into this really excited because I love the idea of having a Vader Palpatine story.
Yeah.
Because like we had Thrawn recently, and that had a lot of Vader moments in it.
Lots of it.
Real cool.
Yeah.
And I really liked it. This one had also some really cool Vader moments.
I thought you were going to throw a but this one sucked. Okay.
But
oh no, the butt! Oh no, everybody!
But I didn't get as much like Palpatine Vader as I wanted out of this book. I felt like it focused a lot more on other characters than it did on them. Also, one that I don't even remember his name. He felt not super.
I think
alive.
Gonk
what happened
broke.
Well, he'll try. Give 1 second to Gonk and see what's going on here.
I think Gonk broke.
Yeah, no, we'll talk about that here. I guess I can give a second too. That way we can make sure everything's working. Is everything good, Gonk? Failures on some gonky part.
I think that Gonk cam broke. But if it continues to break, we'll just switch to the two-shot.
We don't need you on camera.
We don't need me.
But no, I
so you wanted more. You wanted more
like
Palpatine
for
Vader. You
Lords of the Sith.
Yeah.
We focused on a lot of the Twi'leks.
Yep.
Which was cool.
Gotcha.
I love Cham Syndulla.
Yeah.
Which was a big part of this book too, but also not that big of a part of this book either. I feel like.
Yeah.
I felt like there was a lot on characters that I felt like, well, why are these characters that I've never heard of in this book? And it was for the exact reason that I thought they were in that book.
They fought for what they believed in and gave their lives in that sacrifice.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Okay.
I mean, ultimately, some of them didn't really achieve much either, right? Like there was some stuff with that. But no, I think it was a fun book, and I loved actually moments that had like Vader and Palpatine and them interacting and the things they were saying and doing and all this kind of stuff. And,
okay, gotcha.
Talking about like their past and Palpatine doing his little like, ooh, your thoughts, Vader. You know, like just like, well, what's he gonna do? Is he mad at him? Is he not mad at him?
Yeah.
But then there were I don't even know, the one Imperial guy who wanted to be a leader, but then.
Are you talking about Colonel Belcor Dre?
Yeah, him.
The traitor.
I didn't care about him at all.
At all. None of the new characters won you over or anything?
He was an Imperial that I didn't. I was like, well, I don't care because you're an Imperial. He wasn't like a good guy Imperial.
No, of course
he
not.
Was just he was betraying the Imperials because he was also being like blackmailed by the Twi'leks and stuff too. And
did you enjoy his complete and utter breakdown? I did. I loved it. I love like he would just like after every time he spoke to Cham. I thought it was hilarious.
I don't know. I guess
I actually quite liked his interplay with Moff Moors and trying to be like, all right, well, I'm in too deep. Sunk cost fallacy. I'm just going to kill the head of state.
Yeah.
I thought it was really fun to read.
That's what he had to do. There was he got pushed to a point where he had no options.
Yeah.
It was similar, I guess, to
Cham played him hard.
Cham had a similar point where he was like, we're at this point, we have to. And I thought it was really cool that like the story progressed to a point where we have Palpatine and Vader both stuck on a planet.
Yeah.
Like trying to survive, and they're being hunted by these freedom fighters.
Yep.
What was it? Freedom for Ryloth or
the Ryloth Freedom Force. I don't.
It was something along those lines. I forget exactly, but and I mean I liked a lot of that aspect of all of it.
Yeah.
But then it would cut back to that guy, and I'd be like,
really?
I just didn't care so much about that part. Okay. I wanted more for Lords of the Sith. I wanted more Lords of the Sith.
Yeah.
I think, and that was my like, all right. Mm-hmm. Whereas Thrawn and Vader, like the second book of Thrawn, had tons of Imperial stuff that I cared about and wanted to see more of Vader, more.
So
Thrawn.
You had an idea of what this is, and it became this, and you were like, "Oh, I want my idea."
My idea was the title of the book.
They were in it,
and I was like, "Oh man, I wanted more."
Okay,
so
that's incredibly disappointing to me.
What was your thought on the book?
I thought that Isval, the Twi'lek woman, the former sex slave, I thought she was one of the most badass rebellion-like characters I've read in a really long time. She stared down Darth Vader, knowing she couldn't win. Like, she stared him down anyway. Sure. How often do you see that happen? Like, never. Almost never. Like, you will die braver than most. Like, Vader's experience is that people fear him, and then they die. And she didn't fear him. And she knew she should have. I loved it, man. I thought it was great. I loved her, I wanted to say adventure, but her, when she went down and she found the other sex slave, Twi'lek, that was, messing around with the Imperial, and she was just gonna, I was like, we're just gonna kill this guy. He's like, don't kill him, don't do that. And she shoots people in the back of the head. It's an incredibly violent book, this book.
Yeah.
I mean, it is Lords of the Sith.
So did the other Imperial guy. He just shot that one guy in the back of the head.
Dude, he totally did. He's in deep, but yeah, I know. There's just something about that character that I don't know, really spoke to me. Like, I just, like, per your point, like, I know things aren't going to work out for him.
Sure,
like, it's not going to work out.
My biggest worry in this book was that I was like, hang on, when is that? Cause as I went through the whole book, I didn't realize where it took place exactly. Sure. I knew it was between like episodes 3 and 4.
Yeah,
I was like, where is this in Rebels kind of thing? It's 14 BBY in Rebels.
Oh, 14 BBY, okay.
Yeah, and Rebels takes place like about 10 years later or so.
Sure.
So when I was first listening to it and was going through Cham's story and everything like that, I'm like, Cham's not going to die in this story, is he?
Yeah.
Does Cham die in this story? I mean, I don't know when Cham dies.
Sure.
So I was like, I was worried about him because of that part of it there, but like, I wasn't, like you were saying, I'm not worried about Vader or Palpatine.
Sure, I get what you mean.
What's going to happen with that. So like, there is that little bit of drawback too, but the parts of the story that I really liked were like Vader going back into his memory and having these flashes and thinking of like Ahsoka and Obi-Wan and stuff, and Palpatine sensing those moments and being like, you could have landed this much better than what you did. Why? What happened? Where was your mind, you know? And even when Vader stops Palpatine from killing the one Twi'lek at the one point, and I'm just like, it felt like, just this tension between the two of them.
Definitely.
And I really liked that aspect so much.
Like, along with their use of V-Wings, right? Yeah. They're not using TIE fighters, using V-Wings. Along with that, that was what firmly put me like, oh, okay, we're still kind of early days as Vader as a Sith Lord. And he hasn't truly been confronted with like, hey, Anakin's in there, or is he not? Let me know. Because I got shit to do. Palpatine has stuff to do. But yeah, no, I thought it was interesting. Like, you never see Palpatine go out and do stuff on his own, except for certain moments, of which we'll talk about later, because we do have some of our best of Palpatine coming up. But yeah, I really quite enjoyed Palpatine being like, okay, so I know there's a snitch. I don't know how we're going to get him, but we're going to get him. And I'm going to go myself. I thought that was really cool. Put myself in harm's way. Don't tell this person that. Don't tell this person that.
Sure.
And, yeah. No, I like the Ryloth, the Twi'lek. I don't know, just how, they are. If you're going to have the level of Rebels, right, and you're going to have, Luke down here and Saw Gerrera here, like Cham's here and Isval's here, and it's like, hey, you could go too far, but I don't ever felt they really did. And I thought their plan was good. I liked their I liked how it felt like, hey, they could pull this off. They just didn't realize just how vicious the Emperor and Vader can be.
Sure.
They can be so vicious. When they started to kill all of the Twi'lek that came to help, right? Like the rescue squads, Cham had this plan with 3 or 4 of them.
There was distraction units and that kind of stuff. And
so of the
Vader
hundreds that come,
Vader just like, Twi'leks, kill.
He killed them all.
That was I do think the Vader moments in this seem very threatening. I love it's like the first chapter. Vader boards the one ship with Pak, I think is his name.
Yeah.
And there's that moment. Actually, there might be 2 of the moments, but like it's the radio silence, and all you hear is just a
yeah.
And he's like,
yeah, right.
You're next. And I was like, I just picture Anakin just like sitting there, just like breathing into it, and like, hello, you know.
It turns up.
Yeah.
You know, that part did remind me of like when you remember back in the day when you had like when we had landlines and you could pick up the phone and hear someone. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, hey, is someone breathing?
Mom,
grab the phone.
Mom, grab the phone. I'm on the phone.
You kind of felt like that a little bit with Vader's breathing.
But like how threatening he is through that part, and the part when they're like blowing up the Perilous, I think it is.
The Perilous. Mm-hmm.
And Vader's like coming down through, and they're trying to get away, and like he just like he just, you know, it's so hard to get away from Vader because he's just a force just coming through. And both of those kind of moments when he's like, there were 8 men there, you know, who is this? Yeah. And it's so scary. It's like Rogue One, you know, it's those kind of moments. And I thought that all the Vader moments in this, I thought were so good.
I think that's why I liked Isval so much, because it like mirrors Vader's stuff. Like she learns more and more what he's capable of, and that she cannot measure up, and it never stops her. If you feel like it would stop others, but it never stops her. I loved it.
I thought it was just like, I don't feel like you're thinking well.
Really?
I'm like, you're seeing what this man can do, and you have less and less and less resources.
Yeah.
And you're still going at it. And I'm like, Cham even got to the point where he's like, I've used all my resources now. And then you get to the point when Palpatine's like, this is exactly what I wanted. Mm-hmm. If I would have waited, it could have been a force that would have been a problem. But instead, we stopped it, and now you don't have anything. And I'm like,
I get you. I mean, I understand, like, in terms of, like, strategy and all that stuff, but just at the heart of the character of a freedom fighter, like, the unwavering, like, she believes in what she's doing so much, like, it will not stop her. Eventually, she learns this is a magic sorcerer that can choke me from space.
Yeah, from one ship to another ship.
From one ship to another. And she's like, oh, no. But most people will be like, oh, my God, we're going to die. And then, you know, something terrible is going to happen. She's like, I'm going to ram his effing ship. And she rams his effing ship.
No, I think that's great.
I love it.
I mean, that's one of those moments where it's like, I'm going to die. Yeah. What can I do to not die? And she does that. Yeah. And I think that stuff's great.
But I'm not going to...
There's just other aspects sometimes where I'm like, I wish there was like... Yeah. I guess it didn't feel too... I don't know, maybe there's more layers there than what I'm thinking. But it felt like it was like, I'm on a mission to do exactly this, and that's all I'm going to do. And I'm like, but when it really, really fails and you have only like 10 guys left to go after Vader, maybe you should just save these 10 guys. Because eventually it got to the point, it's like, get Cham out of here. Yeah. I'll distract him. It's like, but we could have just not came here.
Cham's the leader. She's the fighter, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about the way that she carried herself and the way she spoke that I respected. Like I knew from the moment we met her, like, this lady's going to die.
Sure.
But she's not going to die beaten.
Lasted a lot longer than I thought she would. I thought she was going to die on the Perilous. I didn't think she was going to make it off.
But like, she's not going to be like, oh my God, please don't kill me. You know, she's going to die defiant. And she looks at the two most powerful people in the galaxy and says, I do not fear you.
Sure.
And neither of them are like, you do. You're lying. They're like, straight up, she doesn't fear us.
Sure.
Which is the greatest.
No.
Which is one of the craziest things that you could say to a Sith Lord. Like, I don't fear you. And actually mean it. You know? Like, which is kind of like when Ezra does it with Vader, and Vader gives him a little bit of like, all right, yeah, good job, buddy. Still going to beat you. Not going to matter.
Yeah.
But I'm not, destroying a subject that, is my plaything. Like, this person is against me and would rather die than be under my boot, you know? Sure. So I just really like the character for that.
Sure, yeah. No, I love the fearlessness. But there was just some stuff. I think it was just more of like the story and me already like, well, in the metaverse of this, I know that this stuff will not succeed. So it all seems, futile, I guess, right? Like there's no, like, what they're doing doesn't matter because I know it won't work. But I loved the idea. I love the assassination attempt.
Yeah.
And
I have to push back on it. Like, I understand like it's not going to work, but I don't know if that necessarily means it doesn't matter. But I think I know what you mean. Like, it's not going to change things that I know is going to happen.
Sure, yeah.
But I am going to learn more about these characters and their struggle. And that does matter.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, they will be the spark that, I love that spark into a flame line is like, oh, man, fucking, that just came out before the sequels. That Poe Dameron line.
Yeah.
That already happened in Star Wars.
Sure. Like, for Cham, it gives me a better understanding of him and stuff, too.
Yeah. Sure.
But, like, also in, like, the grand scheme of things, too, like, it as much as I can understand Isval, like, it doesn't branch out further than this book. You know what I mean? maybe they have her or put her in some other stuff too, and I can be like, oh, hey, that's her, okay, and it just kind of feeds itself, because that's what a lot of Star Wars does, is it takes things and just keeps,
I get
adding
you.
to
Like,
characters and building on them.
We get Cassian Andor in Rogue One. If that was all he was ever in, like, you're still gonna really appreciate the character and his small arc in that, but you're probably gonna appreciate it way more because you have the Andor series.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Like right now, I can think of Chirrut Imwe. He doesn't appear in anything else, at least to my knowledge, he doesn't. No. But I can still
you can appreciate the character,
and you can find a lot of value in what he goes through, what he says, and what he dies for. Right.
Sure.
And I kind of felt that way with the Twi'leks a little bit.
Do you think that Isval died for something meaningful?
Well, yeah. I mean, the spark of rebellion is extremely meaningful. Even if it doesn't catch something, it doesn't mean that's not worth anything.
I guess my thought was like that spark was already there. Cham was a spark of rebellion. Like he already was.
Sure.
And
well, I mean,
for whatever reason that it got pushed to this point.
The spark itself is the movement. Cham's the leader, but you still need people that are doing the business, you know? And like Gobi, from the Clone Wars and Rebels, and her, they were doing the business.
Sure.
You know, just because you fail doesn't mean that.
Sure.
It doesn't mean anything.
But I don't know if Isval starts a spark of rebellion among the masses. You know what I mean?
Sure. I mean,
but no. I mean, I think like her character, the fearlessness and everything they have with it, I think is great.
Mm-hmm.
But also like at one point I was trying to think, I'm like, okay, so where am I? Like the protagonists are the Twi'leks, right? Because I was like, it would have been interesting if we wrote this book as like the protagonists are Vader.
Yeah, it depends on the point of view of which character you're with at a certain point.
And these Twi'leks are like the antagonists of it. But then I was like, well, I don't think it's really written that way. We just kind of sometimes jump over to them and hear like what Vader and Palpatine are doing and stuff too. And I don't know. It's just...
No, I mean, we talk about heroes and villains, and a villain is generally somebody that they get hurt in the past and they go out and they hurt people because of it. And the hero gets hurt in the past and they say, never, I'm going to let that happen again.
Sure.
Someone like Isval was hurt in the past, and you can call her a hero, but also she's going to hurt because you hurt her. Sure. And it's not, black or white. It is kind of levels of gray, which I think is what maybe I was just kind of looking for with Rebellion stuff. I don't know. I love Saw Gerrera. I love how complicated he can be. But at the end of the day, like when we're reading that one book, Rebel Rising, and he just brings out disruptors and starts murdering people indiscriminately, I have to be like, you've gone too far.
Yeah,
Sure. I never really felt like, at least the Twi'leks, they got closer, but they never went too far for me.
Yeah.
And so never went into like an antagonist role.
Sure. I guess too, like you brought up like Andor and like Rogue One, right? And it's like in Chirrut Imwe, and like those characters, like if there was no Andor series or anything, they only exist within that movie, and that's all they're in. But what they ultimately end up doing has meaning towards the rebellion, the fall of the Empire, and all that. By the end of this, I didn't feel like Isval and what she did, except for at the very end being like, get Cham out of here and just keeping him alive, ultimately really led us anywhere except for exactly what Palpatine wanted. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of part of it too, where I'm like, man, I feel like I wish I felt like she accomplished something, and I didn't feel like she accomplished something. If that makes sense. Like as far as the character goes, I think it could be great. I love the idea of like, I'm not gonna fear any Sith. I don't care. I know I'm not a Sith or a Jedi or anything either, but I think that's a cool perspective for her to have. She knows
she's on the side of right, and she will do anything to stop those on the side of wrong.
Yeah.
And like to the point where she kind of realizes that she's broken in this way.
Yeah.
But a broken person can still be incredibly useful when fighting tyranny.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the idea of like Andor, right? And all those guys where it's like, we were all real bad people, but let's do some bad stuff for good.
Yeah.
Like at
saboteurs,
very end,
assassins.
Right? Yeah. We've done some terrible
things.
This
cannot be in vain.
Yeah. We're going to do something now. And I love that. And I didn't feel like I got quite that out of this. But anyway.
Well, we'll respectfully disagree on that subject.
That's fine. Yeah, we can disagree on that. But as far as like
going let's talk about the things that you really liked, which seems to be the Vader.
I love the
Palpatine
Vader and
stuff.
Palpatine stuff. I love the moments like when he was like Ahsoka, like he was just thinking about his past. He was thinking about Padme and stuff too. There was a weird moment, and I don't know if you caught this either, and I'm assuming it's a hiccup.
Okay.
Where there was I think they were on the planet, right?
Ryloth?
On the planet of Ryloth. They had been crash landed there. There's Palpatine and two guards. And he says, like, take off your mask because it must be bothersome, right? Yeah. And he removes it, and one's a clone.
One's a clone.
And I was like, oh, cool, a clone. And Vader thinks, like, oh, Rex, Cody, Sixes. And I was like, who?
I caught that, too.
I was like, it must have been a hiccup.
Or, I mean, there's a million of them.
Clone,
one's got to be called Sixes.
I guess. But I just, like...
You meant, like, is this meant to be fives?
I'm assuming it was supposed to be fives. But I was like, why is this... Who's Sixes?
Yeah.
Because all the other ones, I think they named 4 of them. And I was like, Echo. I think they named Echo. And I was like, well, I know Echo.
I remember driving while listening to that part. And I remember thinking, like, look that up when I get home. Like, is there a clone named Sixes I don't know about? And now I just remembered it because you said it. I'm going to look up. Is there... Star Wars. This is my Google Jitsu, by the way. I'm really good at Googling.
I thought it was called Google Food.
Star Wars. Oh, yeah, but I watch Naruto now. Star Wars clone named Sixes. All right. Category Sixes. The greatest hero in Star Wars. Is this?
That can't be real. Is it a joke?
Let's see.
The greatest hero in Star Wars.
Galactic Republic, 60 Sith Squadron. I don't know if this...
The greatest hero in Star Wars.
What am I looking at here? I need some references. Hold on. This Wikipedia article isn't working for me. My Google Food has failed me.
Wikipedia has failed you?
Yeah. What's he from? What are the references on this Wikipedia? Okay, I just have Sixes. Yeah, Born Camino, Human Clone.
Okay.
Jedi Bob was Sixes Jedi General. Jedi Bob?
Are you being... It sounds like you're being trolled.
I'm clicking on it. Here's Jedi Bob. It looks like it's from a video game. His affiliations to Jedi Order and the Galactic Republic, and his dislikes are the Count Dooku fan club. What is this?
His dislikes are the Count Dooku. What are you looking at?
Jedi Bob!
The Count Dooku
what's this from, though?
Fan club?
This is fake because this is saying a fallen statue of the Jedi Bob on Jeddah, and that's just a picture of the big giant Jedi statue. What is Jedi Bob and Jedi Bob and Sixes would later manage to take the place of Sheev's bodyguards, with Sheev completely. They're just calling Palpatine Sheev here, by the way. Jedi Bob would use the Force to cloud Sheev's visions on the future. What is this trivia?
Well, I don't know.
Jedi Bob was the second most powerful Force sensitive to ever step foot in the galaxy, surpassed only by Nobody and Gonk.
Gonk.
The Wills really liked him. Okay, but I have there's no references at the bottom of the Wikipedia page.
I don't know where this is from.
What's chat saying? Guys, we have both. We have with Twitch. We're on Twitch finally.
Greatest hero of Star Wars.
Yeah,
he was the greatest among us. Just knowing that I'm not him makes me want to kill myself. Clone Commander Bakara.
At the start of the Clone Wars, Sixes abandoned his Jedi general immediately after he met him, and went to seek someone worthy. I don't know what this is.
Count Dooku and Sixes. Count Dooku said, "No, Sixes, you're not canon." Sixes says, "Check your sources, son. I'm as canon as they come." This is a troll thing, Eric. It has to be.
It has to be. This has, during Order 66, he gets a communication from Sheev. Get lost, Sheev. I don't take orders from you.
Oh, Sixes, I'm so sorry. I didn't know this was your frequency, sir.
Okay, I don't know what we're looking at then.
So in later editions of the book...
Wiki. That was not the Star Wars Wiki. It was Stapwap Wiki.
So in later editions of the book, Sixes was corrected to be 5. So in the first editions of the book, it was Sixes. And then whenever they did the audio drama or the audio version of it, it must have been the same issue.
Well,
so there was no Sixes. It must have been 5s.
It's pretty rare that I don't understand what I'm reading when I get to Star Wars. And Stapwap Wiki got me.
Jedi Bob.
All right. Okay. Well, 6s, huh?
But no,
I remember thinking that too. It's been like, are they talking about 5s? Who wrote this?
I'm like, it must be 5s because they named Rex, Cody, Echo, and 6s, and I'm like, who the heck is 6s?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Anyway, that was one of my things I was just curious about.
Gotcha.
But no, what'd you think of the moment? excuse me, the moments between having like, it felt like all of this, right? All of this was like also, besides trying to get the freedom fighters of Ryloth kind of losing all the resources or whatever that Palpatine wanted, felt like he was also testing Vader through so much of this.
Very much so.
There's one moment that I liked a lot where, I love when Palpatine, like, there's like 2 times when he like pulls out his saber and is like fighting with it, and I'm like, oh, sweet.
And then he also will look around and be like, how many people are seeing this?
Well, yeah, I was like,
I'm going to have to kill all these motherfuckers.
There was a point when he used the Force and stuff, and I was like, dude, his guards know he used the Force or what? Like, he usually doesn't use the Force among anybody, you know?
Like, they know what to do? Keep their mouth shut.
I guess,
what they do. Yeah.
But then later on, he was like, this is on you, Vader. I can't use my Force powers here. And I was like, oh, okay.
There's way too many people.
Yeah.
There's a holocam out there. They're going to realize that their president is a devil, devil worshiper.
So I thought that was really cool. But there was a moment when I think they were fighting what are they called? The Lilacs or something like that? Like the crazy horde of whatever jungle monsters they were.
Yeah, there were 2 monsters. One I didn't know of. There were the tentacle ones that they fought. The giant
like
horde.
Lilacs.
The first ones were like,
they were like
dogs. I remember those things from the Ryloth series or the Ryloth saga. Yeah.
Were those the ones that were like hunting through the place that they had like starving? Were they them guys?
I think so. Yeah.
And then like Obi-Wan's like, shoot.
I believe so.
The cannon.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was them. But yeah, the second one's the one that had the tentacles and that went underground, and Palpatine and Vader just like murdered all of them.
Yeah.
That was pretty crazy.
Well, like at one point, it's like, I love Vader. I think it was Vader who's like, you 2 stay here.
Yeah.
It was like, we'll fight the Queen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, these 2 are fighting the Horde?
That's what I was
and
thinking.
You 2 fight the Queen?
At one point, they were like, how many think there are, Master? Or how many, it's like hundreds, thousands maybe. And I'm like, what are they going to do? They can't kill all of them. Anyway, they killed all of them.
Later, after we killed them all. But there was a moment somewhere within that, I kind of forget exactly where it is, but like Vader looks at Palpatine and like thinks about if he died here or if he would lose, and it was like, I could take control and be the leader of the Empire. And I was like, ooh, I like hearing these thoughts from Vader, because like it's a common Sith thing, right?
It is.
Has Vader ever wanted to move up and take over and do that? Because it's among the Sith, that's usually what they do, but we don't usually see that very much. And even by the end of it, except for when he finally does kill him for his son, I never necessarily got a huge feeling that he really would.
No.
Just that he was trying to entice his son to come join him. But then even when he got his son, he took him to the Emperor.
I get what you mean.
know?
The only real inkling we get in its legends now is just Starkiller, the secret apprentice.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to use him to help defeat
Palpatine.
Palpatine. But, I mean, when we take all of Star Wars into account, especially the sequels, and that Palpatine never intends to pass on what he knows.
No.
He will live forever. He is all of the Sith.
Sure.
Vader's kind of the perfect apprentice for him, right? I mean, he's expendable. He's the Jedi's greatest hero that he turned into his lapdog. If he loses an arm or a leg, it doesn't matter because we can just build him a new one. And if Palpatine's like greatest, victory over the Jedi is Order 66, then having Anakin Skywalker be Darth Vader is his greatest mockery. So I never really, got the feeling that Palpatine, this almost has like this element in this book of him like kind of poking Vader and being like, hey, what do you want? What are you doing? What's happening here? Do I need to be on the lookout for you coming at me? Because you are technically the chosen one. Maybe you can pull out some crazy, I don't know what you can do. But at the end, it kind of feels where he's like, oh, okay, he's going to be loyal. That's where I want him to be, under my boot, and he will never rise above me. Yeah,
which it's how I've always felt it. Because even though the point of like, Empire Strikes Back, it's like, the son of Skywalker could be a great ally. They have those kind of things. And then he's like, join me and together we can rule, the galaxy.
Sure.
And it had hints of like, we'll take over and get rid of the Emperor. But then once he finally got Luke, he just took him to the Emperor. And I'm like, but they didn't try to stop him. You didn't try to turn him. You didn't try to like, let's go kill him or nothing. So
it's too late for him. He must obey his master. If he doesn't obey his master, what is he? If he is Anakin Skywalker, he's the worst person to ever live. He has to be Darth Vader, and Vader just serves the Emperor.
It's true. I mean, he's come pretty far into some terrible, terrible things and stuff. There was something I was reading where I don't remember who it was or what it was. I don't think it was on Facebook, but someone was being like, talking about how the prequels like made Anakin sympathetic, and he used to be like a big, terrible, like menacing, creature and stuff like that. Like it was like, oh, he's a scary bad guy, and then you go back and you have the prequels, and they made him sympathetic, and he just wanted to do it to try to save his wife and stuff. And I'm like,
okay.
I was thinking like, well, yeah, I guess that's how he gets influenced and enticed by the dark side to do it, and then he goes and murders children. He did all these terrible, terrible things and becomes exactly what he becomes then, and then gets redeemed by the end eventually. But
does this person only ever watch 4 and 5, not 6?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember exactly where it was, but I was reading it and I'm like, but what? Why would you?
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to have like, who was this person before and how did they come to this place?
It makes it worse.
Or did you just want to see like, I want to see a little kid who's like stabbing bunnies and like just doing terrible things as a kid, so I can hate him all the way through. I mean, I don't know.
I guess it's a criticism. I don't understand. Like, did they like get into like biblical history and they're like, the devil used to be the angel? What the hell? I want him to be evil. He was good once.
I don't know. It was just it was a weird thing that I saw, but
yeah, okay.
But no, I liked at least having Vader have those thoughts, even to the point where he was like, I forget exactly what it was, but he was like, I could pick up his frail body, and I'm like, hey, he does that later.
He does do that.
He was thinking about like, just could I pick him up and just throw him on the ground or whatever it was. But it was interesting having those thoughts from Vader, where like as Vader, I didn't feel like I typically got that feeling from him. But like you said, it could easily be that he's like Palpatine's feeling it out, and trying to like get him to be like, you can have these thoughts, but then squash them.
Yeah,
be loyal like you're supposed to be.
Like they even kind of bring it up a little bit. He's always calling him friend. Hello, my friend.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk to you. I mean, he talks. He's a politician, right? He's gonna do that, make everybody feel good. But when he says friend, it doesn't feel like that's what he means.
Yeah, right.
It's more slave. Hello, my slave.
Hello, my slave.
Yeah.
We also had. I don't remember him being in it a ton, but Orn Free Taa was in this a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
And
Vader thought he was the spy and just picked him up. No, help me! Oh.
But he also had like a weird way of breathing and stuff too, where he was like injured and stuff. And I was like, oh hey, this was done before Bad Batch.
Mm-hmm.
And Bad Batch had that moment where I was like, oh, is he dead? And he was like, oh, well, he's not dead.
Yeah, dude, they were referencing something that hadn't happened yet.
Yeah, right. Isn't that great?
that can work. It did have a weird breathing thing.
Yeah, it was like a pre-make.
That's what kind of reminds me of like the Genndy series Grievous, and he spoke like this, and never at all would he cough. So at the end of the second season, Genndy had to have like Mace Force like rip his chest open, and now it's like, hey, it makes sense now.
Nah, that's why.
It kind of reminds me of that. But yeah, he did have like a weird.
He had like a weird breathing kind of thing.
And the voice artist that did the audiobook really exaggerated it. Yeah.
So Ryloth has
a
lot of problems that they don't listen to me.
I was like, oh, I wonder if that's because of his injury that he had from not Constantine, but whatever that other guy was playing. I forget his name now, but from Bad Batch we saw that happen.
It starts with an A, or I'm sorry, an R. Admiral
Raditz.
I'm gonna look at my action figures real quick.
Look at your action figures. Yeah, that's it, Nexus. But I'll see if he can get it.
Rampart.
He messed up.
Isn't it Rampart?
No, yeah, it's Rampart. That's him.
I have the action figure right here.
That's him, Rampart.
Didn't think I had a Rampart action figure. Gee,
I want to see what you came back with. Like, did you get it? Did you find it? I'm not gonna say yet, guys. Hold on a second.
Yeah, this is my Black Series Bad Batch Vice Admiral Rampart, not Admiral Rampart. Yeah. My bad. It's gone now, though.
Now, another thing with them that I liked too, that I thought was interesting, was they met the one Twi'lek. And I mentioned a little bit too, but like Palpatine goes to kill her, and Vader stops it.
Yeah, that was shocking to me. I was like, "Oh man, what are you doing, man?"
But then it felt kind of like when you do something in your body, like, "Hey, you know what? I think this might be maybe we could use her," And he's like, "All right."
Yeah,
and he kind of went with it.
But also, like, this is going to kill all the other villagers, right?
Yeah.
If he hadn't
that's
done
what Palpatine was saying, right? Like, because you saved her, now you're killing all of them.
And not only are they all going to die? I'm going to send you there, just like I sent you the Jedi Temple. And you're going to do it all again because you're my slave. You're not my friend.
Did you feel, or maybe this is me like imparting what I was hoping was there. Did you feel like Vader at all had any remorse or sadness of going and having to kill all the Twi'leks there that were hiding in the ground?
Well, I think the answer is, of course, he does, but he can't allow himself to. So, like, I think, it's like what Hayden Christensen says. Like, he doesn't consider them two different characters. They're one character. He just has to justify being Darth Vader. So I think that he does, but his belief is that he cannot allow himself to think that way. So he just uses the dark side, anger and fear and all that stuff to just cloud away Anakin Skywalker. So I mean, I think that's kind of the point of what we saw when he did make that stop. Like, no, we can still. He was like, no, Master, we can still use her, but it felt like an instinct, and then he had to justify it.
Yeah, like Anakin was like, "What are you doing, killing?" You know, like
there was like an element in there that kind of felt that way. I don't know if it was really meant to go that way, but it felt that way for me.
And I don't know if it's me putting that onto him as like, oh, what would Anakin have done versus this? And there's lots of times where like I feel like Anakin's still kind of there, and that's kind of what they. And with this being earlier days, maybe that's kind of what they're going for. When was Thrawn 2, the one story? That was
Electric
in
Boogaloo?
the middle of Rebels. That was late into Rebels, right?
Yeah, that was after. Yeah, that was in the middle because there were two different timelines in that one. There was the Clone Wars one, and then there was the.
It was
between what 2 and 3 or 3 and 4.
Was that? Didn't he make the Bendu? Didn't he say like, "Oh, the Bendu, you didn't do it"? Like, he didn't say it like that. But
I think that's exactly what he said.
I think Vader mocked him about the Bendu in his moment when they went to the same planet that the other one was. But this one here, since it's further back to before that. It might make more sense that there's a little bit more Anakin in there now than there is like later on or something too. But even in that book, like you still had those elements of like Anakin and memories and things that he's still dealing with and stuff too, which is really cool. And I love just battling with that turmoil of like these kind of like alter egos that he has, right?
Oh,
it's like Batman and Bruce Wayne in a way.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's almost like if we're looking at it as a belief system, like I am not Anakin Skywalker, I am what remains, all that stuff. Like he would probably almost feel haunted by Anakin and Anakin's memories, like they're not mine, something else is haunting me. Maybe that's how he justifies it, but it is an interesting topic to think about.
Well, like I'm trying to remember exactly what happened with his meditation because he had some of those like moments that he was thinking about too, and he came to, and he's like. And like Palpatine's like,
That's why it's so.
That's
that's why it's. I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages to being in Vader's mind because when we're just watching and it's just a mask, we can try to guess what he's feeling. All we know of like when he just says something, I have to then judge if he's telling the truth or if that's how he really feels or if he's not hiding something. He can hide so much behind that mask.
Yeah.
But when you're in his mind in a book,
yeah,
you kind of lose a little bit of that. What is he really feeling right now? Like whenever Luke is like, Father, you come with me and we can defeat the Emperor together in episode 6. Like, and he says, it's too late for me, son. Like, I must obey my master. Like, is like that has like this element of like, is that Anakin speaking or is that Vader speaking? I don't know which, and it's fun. But when you do it in the book, you kind of know sometimes.
Yeah. No. And like with having that in the book, like you get those elements where you're wondering what he's thinking, and you get that, and is there an element of Anakin there? But then you also get those moments where like he jumps down in the quarry and just like reflecting bolts back to spaceships and stuff, and you're just speeding through things and killing every Twi'lek he sees. And, it's like, all right, there's Vader too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, there he is. This is a side point, but I showed Aaron this morning, like, hey, did you ever see the full cover art for this book? It's pretty sweet, but like you pointed out, it's like, when's that?
Yeah.
When are there AT-ATs and all these guys? And I was like, yeah, you're right, but also look how long his lightsaber is in this picture. It's like twice as long as it should be.
It's real long. Real long.
Now, it was never meant to, I think, maybe be a full picture, and it was like, it's covering a book, so maybe they don't care, but man, it was too long.
Yeah.
Good picture though.
No, it was great. But for the cover of the book, I was like, does it take place in the book?
Yeah.
It was like someone just like, hey, draw me a picture of like Vader and Palpatine together on a mission.
Yeah. What are they doing? I don't know.
Fighting stuff.
What? Just draw some people and
so it's like stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Big Star Destroyers, some AT-ATs, because that's imperial and scary, And all right.
It does make you think, like, whenever they are commissioning those covers, does this person like? Did they read the book, or are they just told what to do?
Are they given any information about the book?
It's got to be they're just told what to do, right?
Yeah, it's got to be like, and then it's not too specific.
I would say so.
And then they just like cut off parts of it, and you're like, we'll use this part.
Maybe.
Shortens the saber if we cut off here.
Yeah.
And we'll cut off this part and cover it so you don't see the AT-ATs.
I get you.
Another thing I thought was interesting was the names. I was wondering what it was, and then later on you find out. But that Twi'lek that I was saying about that he saves.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, here is what was it, Captain or Sergeant or whatever it was, and she's like, I don't know your names. Mm-hmm. And he gives, I forget what the two names
wrote them down,
were, but I remember what they mean.
Yeah, I wrote them down. They are Grata and Urluk.
Urluk?
Yeah. So death and fate.
Yeah. The Sith, in the Sith language,
Grata.
Death and fate. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So their fate is death.
Like, yeah, it's incredibly dark.
I'm your fate, and he's your death.
I know. It's so dark, man. Like, Palpatine's like, because he goes on politician, like, yes, show me your elders. Oh, yes, do the dance. And he's looking at Vader, he's like, hey, look at them. His name's Death and Fate and Destruction. And these people are just completely oblivious. Yeah. I actually really enjoyed when Cham, refuses to... I'm not.
He doesn't want to just
people.
go in guns blazing. He wants to get those people out as much as he can first. Yeah.
The others are like, hey, the element of the surprise is literally the only card we have left to play to have an actual chance.
And he should have taken it.
He should have, but Cham refuses.
Because all those people died anyway from Vader.
Saw Gerrera wouldn't have.
No. That's the difference between...
Mon Mothma would.
That's the difference between, where the things that you were saying. Here's what Luke will do, here's what Saga will do, and here's what Cham will do. Right?
Han would have, been like, but he also would have been like, oh, thank God we didn't do that. I don't want to be a dick.
No, I agree. It was... the Cham stuff I thought was fun and good, and I enjoyed seeing, because, he's in, I don't know, maybe 2 arcs of Clone Wars. I don't think he's in too much of Clone Wars. And then we have a little bit of Rebels.
A little bit of Rebels, but I think this was my favorite appearance of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we got to spend so much time with him. Yeah. It took me 12 hours to read this book. So
yeah. I think I would have liked, if I don't know. I wonder if it probably wouldn't have sold as well if it was a Cham Syndulla story,
Probably not.
But I did read a thing where the author, what's his name? Kemp or something like that?
I think Paul Kemp.
Where
I might be making that up.
He had said something about this will be a story with Vader and Palpatine, and another character, but I can't say yet.
Yeah.
But he's in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And people were like, "Oh, I wonder who that's going to be," So
Paul S. Kemp.
Thank
you, Irish Nexus.
So but I like the Cham story bit, and I maybe if the focus was more on him, kind of like how the Thrawn book was more on Thrawn, but we also got Vader too.
Sure.
I think that would have been maybe really cool and just made it more about Cham Syndulla. I loved when they were in the it was around the time of Pak, I think I'm saying his name right, when he was being attacked or killed or whatever. And he said, I didn't turn the radio off in time, and he knows that someone was listening. So they're just hiding in space, in these rings or whatever, and power down everything, and we just sit and we wait. He's like, but if they find us, we can't get away. He's like, if they find us, we're dead regardless.
Yeah, we're already dead. It's our only shot.
That whole segment there was it was tense and scary.
Yeah.
But also Cham's being I know what we have to do. This is what we have to do. And even the one point, he was talking to Isval, and was we can't do anything. If we do anything, we're dead as well. And Pak chimes in, being we understand, Cham, and it's all right. And he's like, damn it, I thought I thought I needed this. So there's some moments like that I'm it's so sad and terrible and stuff too. And it just makes the Empire so just awful and scary and whatnot. So,
but hey, at the very least, the Twi'leks of Ryloth proved that hey, you can destroy a Star Destroyer, because they kind of implied that this is the first time it's happened.
Yeah, I love the way they do it.
Yeah, me too.
I thought it was great. I loved Vader discovering buzz droids.
Yeah.
Right?
Me too, yeah. He just rips open vulture droids and buzz droids fall out.
Yeah. Oh no, shoot them all.
Yeah.
So I thought
and also
cool
they put on bombs that you can't turn off. That's handy. We should do that more. We tend to put bombs and someone comes over and hits the button and they turn off.
Yeah.
We should get these ones. Vader looked at him and was like, and Vader's a mechanical genius. Not only is he a machine, but he's a mechanical genius. He can fix anything. And he looks at those bombs and he's like, abandon ship. We need more of these Twi'lek
whatever
bombs.
These bombs are.
Exactly.
They should use those more. So, no, it was I that was probably one of my favorite parts of the book as far as like for both sides of everything was Cham had sent these teams on board, and Isval was like, all right, our job is to go. We're going to do this. We're going to put these bombs on. We're going to get out of there.
Yeah.
And that segment there between like Vader coming back from blowing up the Vulture droids and the Buzz droids and all that, and coming back and then finding what's going on and like pursuing them.
Yeah.
Like she had the one moment, Isval had the moment being like, I didn't lock the door. Like there's nothing to stop him from just coming through. Like at least the first door they had stopped, you know. She's like thinking about, I can't say anything. I'm gonna freak everyone else out. So just quiet, don't say anything, you know.
Yeah.
Like I just all that just kept like a good tension and stuff. And she was a character that I'm like, I truly didn't believe she was gonna make it off the Star Destroyer.
Really? Yeah.
Like I'm like this. Like I don't know this character.
Yep.
This is when she ends, and we have Cham out there, and I don't know. I was like, at that point, I'm like, where are we at with this? We have Vulture droids and stuff. It must be before Rebels. But when we first started, I was like, does Cham die in this story? Where are we at with this? But no, it was it was a very tense moment. I love that section.
I'm with you though. I'm surprised how long she made it. And
especially after being choked in space from
exactly.
ship to ship.
Yeah, exactly. How long she made it, and at the end when they've had her, you know, she's been captured. She's at their mercy. They believe that she has no fear, and they don't even try to interrogate her at that point. Like, oh, let's just kill her because we're not going to break her. And how often does Darth Vader do that?
Yeah, right.
It's got to, like, they didn't bring out an ITO droid.
No, they didn't, right?
You know?
I thought about it.
They just looked at him like, that's just too great.
Imagine
He's
they
too strong.
Can't
do it.
Just kill Leia. They didn't do that. Oh.
He's got to kill her. Yeah. Well, it was a fun book.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed it. You know, it's not a visual thing, but I can't help but think about, like, you know, and then, you know, Palpatine and Vader and the other two, you know, climbed up this, you know, the ravine. I kept thinking of, like, Palpatine, like, hiking. You know, like, you know, he would slip, and he does that. You know, the crazy, like, stuff he would do when he's fighting Yoda in the Senate. Like, you know?
Yeah.
I just imagine, like, whoa, Vader, catch me, you know, as he's trying to hike. I just don't think about him hiking so much.
No.
Especially as the Emperor, you know? It's just funny to me. I just kind of wish I could see it.
Yeah, it would be cool to see. I wouldn't mind that.
Like, I just like the idea of him just out there, like, stranded by a campfire and just, you know?
There's not a lot of time to, especially once he's, like, kind of Darth Sidious, like he is. Like, he is the Emperor. He's just this evil. Yeah. Like, you see him move around a little bit more when he is, like, just Chancellor Palpatine or Senator Palpatine or whatever. But once he's, like, Emperor and Darth Sidious in his cloak and stuff, he's a little bit more stationary, doesn't move as much, or he just kind of walks slowly, you know? Yeah. Like in Return of the Jedi, when he arrives on the Death Star, the Death Star, Death Star 2, he just
rise, my
walks,
friend.
you know?
He has a cane. Yeah.
So yeah, you take those images of what you have of him moving around it all, and then put him on Ryloth, traversing ravines and going through jungles.
I think it's funny.
Yeah.
Like, I know he could flip over the ravine, but he'd probably just, you know, oh God, he always has his hands up like this, you know, running. Ah! I thought whenever we played Battlefront 2, and you see he's always running around like this.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like a T-Rex.
Did they never named the clone captain dude,
I think it was just called Sergeant.
Sergeant?
Yeah.
Because I was just wondering, I'm like...
Right? Am I right about that?
Sergeant? It was Sergeant or Captain, because the other guy was like D's or something like that, right?
Yeah. D's nuts.
That's why I kept remembering it. I'm like, his name's just D's? Just D's, all right. But, yeah, the Sergeant or whatever, I'm like...
I didn't think about it until you said D's.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, D's. But I was just wondering, I'm like, I wonder if we'll get anything, especially with, like, Bad Batch and stuff, and there's going to be at least one more season of Bad Batch, but, you know, some of these clones that stay, will we ever see the one that becomes, you know, Palpatine's, you know, guard?
I've never seen it before. This is the only time I've ever even heard of a clone that could be a royal guard. Yeah. And it's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'd be open to something like that. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yep.
I don't know if I have too much else on the book. Those are some of the main
I think we
points
covered
and stuff
everything
that I really liked or really didn't like or whatnot. And overall, I thought the book was fine. I mean, it's a fun chapter within the Star Wars story and everything of, like, Vader and Palpatine and what happens to Cham's, because, like, he had a fairly good resistance build up and stuff. So it's like you're getting that story of, like, why they're not around anymore.
Sure.
But it's just it really, this goes a lot more with, I guess, like Revenge of the Sith, where it's like the things that are there, and you're just seeing how they fall and aren't there anymore, and how the Empire is just just getting away with everything.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, like, we didn't talk much about the Moff either, but the Moff Moors and the Imperial that wanted her position, I didn't. Both of them, I was just kind of like, when we cut to their stuff, I'm like, all right. I was like, cool. He's gonna go. He's at the end of his rope.
Yeah.
I know this guy has to die.
Sure.
Like, there's no way he gets away with this with Vader and Palpatine. And I'm like, I was just waiting to see what happened. I thought maybe he'd get a little further and maybe kill them off or something, but he didn't get that far.
Nope.
And then the Moff was like, well, no, I'm not gonna turn you in.
Sure.
It's like, I can't. You're dead. That's what I can do.
I mean, it's honestly not that big of a deal, especially being where we are looking back. But I think officially, Moff Moors, when they started speaking about her partner that she lost, is officially the first LGBT character in Star Wars.
Really?
Yeah. Like, at that time when it came out, I think that was the case.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I think there was a book or something we read that we had someone, didn't we? Was it like clone or a trooper?
Well, there was a trans clone.
That was
sister.
There was, that's
is that what you're talking about?
I think that was mentioned in a book in passing.
That was in the Brotherhood book, I believe.
Who's sister? And, and
Mm-hmm.
that was something that I think chat told us, like, oh, well, you haven't really met that character yet.
Yeah.
It's a reference to, like, a character from another book. So, okay.
Well, speaking of characters that we haven't met yet, there'll probably be some in the next book that we do.
Oh, yeah, probably.
And I believe that book is going to be the first of the Padme trilogy. This is by E.K. Johnson, who wrote the Ahsoka novel. Queen's Shadow is the next book that we're going to cover. This is a book that takes place 4 years after The Phantom Menace, focuses on her transition from queen to senator.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
So this is in between episodes 1 and 2. That's neat.
No, honestly, it sounds cool just because it feels like we're gonna see some stuff we don't normally see, which is cool. So I'm interested to fill out that part of the galaxy. And I mean, Padme, by the nature of her character, very much comes across as supporting character. Like, she'll be there to mop up Anakin after he kills some Tuskens, you know? Yep. I wanted to have her as a main protagonist. I'm going to be excited for that.
It'd be interesting what that story is, too, because, like, we skip, like, there's not, like, Clone Wars in between there, you know? And I know that, like, I haven't seen her in so long, Master. Like, Anakin's not going to be there or anything. So I wonder what the story will be in that. So that'd be interesting. Or is it going to be more political?
What do we know? We know that in episode 2, she says, like, I did, 2 terms or something? And I heard they tried to amend the Constitution.
So that she could do another,
So maybe we'll cover some of that stuff.
Yeah. Perhaps. Okay. Should be interesting.
Queen Shadow, next Badonkagonk.
Cool.
All right, Aaron. Well, I say we transition.
Oh, okay. To what? More questions?
Do we have any questions? I would love to do one question.
I don't know. Oh, we just pick one.
Do one question. Do we have any questions?
I don't know if we have any questions opened yet.
Dang it, Aaron! What have you done to me?
Let me see. We'll open questions.
We'll open some questions.
Maybe we
can
talk about something else.
Okay. Well,
questions can come in.
We'll go ahead. I mean, it's not an extremely fun transition here, but we do like to do this whenever it calls for it. Let me open up this. Dang it. This is what happens when I try to look up 6s. Okay. So here's an article. This is about the passing of Shauna. And how did we decide?
Tripsick?
Tripsick.
Shauna
Tripsick. I have an article up here from StarWars.com. Shauna Tripsick remembered. And I just thought it would be good for us to go over this article here. Lucasfilm is deeply saddened by the passing of the extremely talented, Emmy-nominated costume designer Shauna Tripsick, who envisioned some of the most iconic costumes from the Star Wars series, The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka. So even though Shauna was, relatively new into the Star Wars world, she put together a lot of really interesting stuff for us. She was born in California, received her first costume designer credit in 1990, so she's been working for a while, steadily building her career on scores of productions with large and small before finding a regular home on Lucasfilm Productions. So she began with the second season of The Mandalorian in 2019. She was considered something of a Star Wars historian by her peers, reading every making of book she could to find or to better understand techniques used in the films during various eras.
That's cool.
In her study, she specifically sought out material that included discussions between George Lucas and his designers and concept artists, which became the foundational ideas of her never-ending research into Star Wars costume design.
It'd be cool to be able to, like, you go in and you're looking at all these different, like, costume designs from the past and stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, I imagine it
every
being
making
like,
of book.
I imagine it being like when we would talk like Star Wars choreography,
yeah.
and we would mention about moves and feelings
specific
from other fights and things that we've seen, and we would all just be like, oh yeah, like this.
Yeah.
It's like being like, oh, do you want a Malgus? And we're like, oh yeah, Malgus, that'd be great. And we,
yeah,
and
I remember when that happened specifically.
Yeah.
Antoine Bandelet came out to record Kylo Ren: The Awakening. We had never really worked with each other in person. It's always been an online relationship. But when he got there and we started choreographing, and there was one part where it was like, what do we do here? And I was like, I don't know, it's like a Malgus thing. He goes, I know exactly what you want of me.
Yeah. But I picture the same thing, though, with, like, going back and looking at, like, all these costumes and stuff. It's like, maybe we could do, like, an episode 2 Padme. And it'd be like, oh, do you mean this scene or this scene? It's like, oh, this one. And, like, this just having that knowledge of knowing, like, costumes and designs of these different outfits and props and stuff, too. Like, you just like, okay, and then you start building something new by having an idea of, like, these other, and it still feels Star Wars, but it can feel new because you're pulling from that same thing, which is really cool.
You know, I've always been fascinated by when you would hear, back in the day, costume design, like, there's no zippers. You don't see zippers ever in Star Wars. They're there, but you don't see them, right? Like Bespin fatigues that Luke wears in the fifth, episode 5. Like, he obviously has a zipper. But they put like a thing over it with Velcro, you know?
It's covered up.
Yeah, so I know that we've had some zippers pop up in the various newer stuff, and some people aren't happy by it. But I don't know if Shauna had an opinion on the zippers of Star Wars. But that is cool that she would dive into the making of books and try to get as close as possible to the foundational ideas of costume design.
Yeah,
and listen to discussions between George Lucas and his designers. Like the archives at Lucasfilm, they have so much stuff that we don't have access to.
That'd be so cool.
Because I know they recorded like all the Clone Wars meetings, the story meetings and stuff. That stuff's all recorded somewhere, and I don't know if it'll ever be released to the public, but it will be a lifelong dream to
like brainstorming sessions.
Break
for
in.
Kind of thing.
We should break into Lucas. No, they did that in Fanboys.
Yeah.
Did you hear? Fanboys was directed by Kyle Newman. Apparently, he just directed Taylor Swift's new music video.
Newman.
Yeah, right?
I didn't know that. So the guy who directed Fanboys directed the music video?
What I heard.
Okay, interesting.
Tripic worked closely with showrunners, producers Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, as well as the entire cast and crew on The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka, approaching her work with surgical precision. Shauna had a deep love and appreciation for Star Wars, says Dave Filoni. You can see that in every piece of work she did with us. She loved everything about being a part of these stories, including connecting with fans and being a part of that community. I feel like she always has been a part of Star Wars. Her costumes tell a story, providing the suggestion of a life experience that happened before the cameras rolled. I loved collaborating with Shauna, and I will miss her presence. Her creativity brought this world to life, adds Favreau. She will be deeply missed both as a friend and a colleague. Tripic was nominated for an Emmy for her work on The Mandalorian Season 2 and The Book of Boba Fett, and she won Costume Designer Guild Award for her work on the latter, so Book of Boba Fett. Cool. She is currently nominated for an Emmy for her work on The Mandalorian Season 3. Our hearts go out to Shauna's family and friends at this difficult time. So this article came out earlier this month, so I guess the Emmy thing is probably still in play. I don't know. When are the Emmys?
I don't know.
But yeah, she could have an Emmy win from beyond.
Sure.
Yeah. But that's really cool. It's sad, obviously, but cool that someone that worked, in my opinion, I keep saying recently, but The Mandalorian's been out for a bit. Season 2's been out for a bit, but I still consider it new and fresh for me.
Sure. Especially in comparison to like a lot of the movies and stuff, right?
Sure,
so.
yeah. But anyway, so rest in peace, and we look forward to seeing Shauna's work throughout the rest of my life, really, right?
Sure,
Like, I'll keep watching those episodes, and I'm sure that the work that she did will continue to inform
influence and stuff,
future
even,
designers. Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, do we have any questions now, Aaron?
Sure. Let's see here. We have well, first I'll see if there's anything related to Palpatine first.
Okay.
But if there's not, then maybe we can grab something otherwise. But How about New Gen Nerd? It's not 100% specific to the book, but what do you think Palpatine's greatest weakness is?
Ooh, his weakness.
His overconfidence.
Your overconfidence will be your downfall. Or was it like, is your greatest weakness? What do you say? Your overconfidence is your weakness. Your faith in your friends is yours.
I think he does say weakness, doesn't he?
I think it is weakness, yeah. I mean, he's earned his overconfidence, though. I mean, the man doesn't
he's done
lose.
So much stuff.
When he loses, he wins tomorrow.
No, it's true.
I mean, his greatest weakness is that he thinks that he believes Vader when he says there's no Anakin Skywalker anymore.
Sure. I mean, his overconfidence, he believes that he has Luke's father, he has Darth Vader as his loyal lapdog, and that he would never turn on him. And believing in that and being so overconfident in that is what ultimately leads to his downfall.
But he wasn't that overconfident
until his next downfall.
Yeah. I mean, he did plan for it, right? I mean, the guy's going to plan for everything. You don't think he's going to plan, like, what if Vader throws me over the edge? We have no rails. What if I fall? You'll be fine. We got this thing called Exegol, and we'll get you in the clone body.
Sure. And even then, he planned for a return that way and stuff, too.
Yeah.
So,
I think his greatest weakness is just not, like, hey, when they're rebounding your lightning, stop. That's his greatest weakness. Like, what, does the lightning, like, switch just get turned on and you can't stop? I'm frying my own face.
Well, Maybe it's like, you ever grab like an electric fence?
Yeah.
It's hard to let go sometimes.
Yeah.
Once you got a hold of it and it's going.
Sure, I get you, but I'm not the one shocking it.
Yeah.
It's shocking me.
Maybe once you're shocking and then they push it back and start shocking you back.
Just locks you into place.
I'm stuck and I can't stop. Like, that's what it's like.
We need to quit doing that to people that have lightsabers in their hands, I guess.
You should, yeah.
All right.
I don't know.
That's his greatest weakness. Won't stop shocking.
Honestly, as far as like a villain and stuff, like he's crafty, he thinks ahead, he's still strong and formidable too. Like he could, on a one-on-one fight, he typically can take pretty much anybody. Yeah. He took on 4 Jedi when they came to arrest him.
Yeah.
Now, sure, he like lost to Mace Windu, but I'm pretty sure that was still all show just for Anakin to come in. Like,
I think Nick Gillard talks about how they didn't have the whole the 7 forms of lightsaber combat and all that stuff. That wasn't a real consideration ever for the choreography of the prequels.
Sure,
but Nick Gillard had like a scale, and I think it was like 1 to 5. It's like this person's a 1, Anakin's a 5, Obi's a 4. They do that type of thing. Palpatine's a 10. Like that's how he would think about him. So yeah, he's the best.
Yeah.
He also just doesn't do it much, which is why he has so much fun when he gets the chance to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's really like a clear like just weakness of Palpatine because he plans for so much and he's worked out so many things that he wants to do and he's not defeated for many, many, many years, you know. And he probably wouldn't have been if it wouldn't have been for his overconfidence that he had in Darth Vader being his loyal lapdog.
Yeah. We have 2 questions I think that can actually all of these next 3 questions I think we can answer all at once. We had Clone 1209 says, have you all thought about going how you're going to cover comics in the future? We had Marvel Week by Week say, when you guys going to be jumping back in the High Republic? And also Ridian, who says, are you planning on continuing your journey through the High Republic? I've recently started myself and I'm loving it. Thanks. Those are actually all kind of connected because the next High Republic thing we're going to be jumping into, not just the next novel, is we're going to be jumping into some comic books when it comes to that. And we're still nailing down exactly how we want to cover some comics. But the answer is we'll be trying to get to it as quick as possible. We just don't have the time to do it right now because it seems like, especially with all of our other Blind Wave work, things kind of compound. We haven't had a chance to really sit down and nail it yet. But we're going to nail it soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we will. And I'm interested in going back into High Republic, but there's also a ton of not High Republic stuff that we haven't covered yet either too. So I mean, there's definitely things we'll be able to cover in the meantime, but hopefully we'll get to those soon.
Do we want to talk about like what some of the options that we want to do with comics, or we'll leave that as a surprise?
I don't know. Either one, I guess.
Let's tease them. You want to tease them?
Yep. Done. We teased it.
Okay, we teased it. I'm sorry, everybody.
No, I mean. Some of it is probably going to be in not live format and probably video format.
Yes.
That we'll have, but then hopefully that works out and we can get it into a live format as well.
Yeah.
But it'll be for covering comics and just different like graphic novel-y looking types of aspects of things because it's just a different medium than books are.
It is, but I think that people will enjoy it. when we get there. And we have some crazy comics to get to. I know one of the first ones we'll jump into is going to be the Sons of Dathomir.
I've never gone through that one.
Yeah, Son of Dathomir arc. Got to do that one. I've read it. It's good. But I want to read it with you. My friend. All right.
Well, we should go into the next part, and then we can hopefully, we'll leave the questions part up, and you guys can ask more questions. But
okay.
We have another discussion to get through, talking about Palpatine. We've already been talking about Palpatine. We've still been talking about Palpatine.
Yep.
But we want to talk about our favorite Palpatine.
We're going to talk about the favorite Sheev moments.
Favorite Sheev moments.
Top 5.
Darth Sidious.
I'm leaving this one number 2.
It's not on my list, but I always love when in the Siege of Mandalore arc and Maul can't even say the name.
Darth Sidious.
Yeah.
I was like, he's coming for us!
I always love that.
He's afraid of it all. And
yeah. All right, Aaron. I got 5 moments and no alternates, so I hope you haven't taken any of mine.
I have 6 things written, and I guarantee there's some of these that are the same as yours.
Well,
they have to be.
I'll go first.
I know a lot of Palpatine moments.
Yeah.
There's at least 2 of ours that match.
Okay, we'll see. All right, I'll go first with my number 5. My first number 5 is the intro to Rise of Skywalker.
My boy.
I love Palpatine. For me, works the best when he hams it up and you let Ian McDiarmid just chew the scenery.
Like whenever he was talking about Episode 3 with Mace Windu, and he's like,
"No, you will die."
And George's like, "Do it more, do it more."
He's like, faster, more intense.
How about this? And he's like, perfect. It's like, but no, you're not going to use that, are you?
Yeah. Ian McDiarmid talks about that on stage. He's like, okay, I'll do one that he definitely is going to think is too much.
Yeah.
And that's the one he uses. But I personally, I love the long have I waited, And it also bookends with their some abilities. The dark side of the Force leads. What's the exact line? I can't remember right now. The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. He does that twice. He does it in Episode 3. He does it in Episode 9. And the first one is talking about saving the ones you love.
Yeah.
The last one is talking about keeping me alive. It really is what all it is. And I'm the one I love.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
And I love puppet Palpatine. Like he's up on strings.
When he's on the thing, yeah.
Like he's literally, it's like NSYNC, in that one music video, but evil.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. But I love that, like, with the nature of his voice, the way the light comes in and out, the way the flashes go in and out, Palpatine is like all around us, and you just see this husk, this dead face with dead fingers, rotting flesh, and it's like, it feels like Palpatine is not here, he's here, And it's these are the abilities some consider to be unnatural. I just think it's an amazing opening for that movie. I love it. Yeah. I don't love all the Palpatine stuff in that movie, but I love that intro. I have been every voice, and then it goes to Snoke. You've ever heard, and then Vader inside your head. So good, man. I love that. So I'm gonna put in there my top 5 moments. That's number 5.
All right.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
I think for my 5, I will go with the because I didn't list these in any certain order at first. So I'm gonna say it's, I'll go with the you're saying that your number 5 is the second time they say that line. I'm gonna go with my number 5 is the first time they say that line with the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Okay, well that's one line. All right.
I knew that was gonna be.
Of course, it's gonna be.
It has to be somewhere.
Why
right?
would it not be?
It's such a good story. The way he says it.
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
And it just goes so well with like what makes Palpatine so good, right?
Yeah.
He has that charismatic moment. Mm-hmm. He's enticing. He's convincing Anakin of these things to the point where later on he can be like, "Oh well, I'm the Sith."
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like, what?
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well," and he doesn't like arrest him or kill him or do anything. Yeah. He goes away and gets some other people to do it, But he has such a way with words, and that little story that he tells there in front of that water bubble opera thing that they have going on.
It's a Mon Cal opera, yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's such a good moment. And
Ian McDiarmid's, like, someone asked him, like, is Palpatine ever do anything good, or, like, what's he do for fun? And Ian McDiarmid's like, well, it would seem he likes opera. And I played it like he really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
He loves, maybe him and Thrawn could go to an opera.
Yeah.
You know?
So I'll say that one is probably my number 5, just because it's a very classic and awesome.
Oh, yeah. Is it possible to learn this power?
Not
from a Jedi.
Is it any or just a
It's
Jedi?
not from a Jedi.
Not from a Jedi.
Not from a, you know why I love that scene so much? Obviously, us that know everything can enjoy that scene. But I love the scene because George Lucas is also thinking about the most important part of the audience, the kids that don't know everything. They have no idea that Sidious and Palpatine are the same person. And like we like to, a lot of us like, oh, no one thought of that, but kids today, like there are kids today that will say, I had no idea until it happened in episode 3 later in the movie.
Sure.
But he has to write that scene and not make kids think like, how does he know secret Darth Plagueis stuff? You just have to play it like, oh, yeah, well, I'm at an opera. I enjoy art and literature and stories. And since I'm here consuming art, let me tell you about another story about art. It's a little hidden thing that a lot of us don't really think about. Yeah. But the kids are like, well, that makes sense. He's at an opera.
Yeah, he's at art.
He's going to be talking about ancient stories and stuff that we pass on. That's not him. It's not conspiracy theory.
Silly.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons I like that so much.
That's been one of my things of wanting to like with my kids and stuff, like trying to get through before spoilers or anything too. Yeah. And I think you still can kind of get in Empire Strikes Back. What does he call the Emperor? Is he just called the Emperor in Empire Strikes Back?
Just the Emperor. Yeah.
Like that's
they don't even say Palpatine in the entire original trilogy.
I don't remember it being there at all. So that's what I was wondering. But like
Master and Emperor.
Watching through that and cutting back to it and stuff too. As long as you don't really know, you only get that hologram moment.
Yep.
Like you probably don't realize necessarily as a kid until you get to like episode 3 and having that reveal of switching it over and the Emperor and you're like, oh my God, look at his face, you know? Like
I've watched a decent amount. I mean, I have to trust that they're telling the truth, but a decent amount of like adults reacting to the prequels, having only watched the original trilogy, or even ones that were watching 1, 2, and 3 and then going into the original trilogy. But, like, they always guess that Palpatine is the Emperor.
Sure.
But some of them, it takes a little bit. And I remember one person.
A little longer than
I remember there being one reaction. It took until the Plagueis story. It was like, I think he's the Sith. And I love that. I love that Lucas and Ian McDiarmid, he talks about how the entire time he did press for the prequels, he never said that he played both of those characters.
Yeah.
He only would say that he's playing the one you know about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a lot of respect for that. And, I mean, Lucas is right. Like, we all, as adults, when we're experiencing these new stories, like to talk about, well, I didn't like this part, and I didn't like this, But it's really about, well, what do the kids think?
Yeah.
They're the ones that are 20 years later they're gonna be fighting about the new stuff, and their kids are gonna be enjoying it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Well, so after Plagueis, I took one of yours. So I don't know. Do you want to use that as your 4, or do you have?
Yeah, I'll throw that as my 4.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll be moving on to 3.
Okay.
And it is Palpatine tries to break Yoda through visions. It is the
Clone Wars?
The Clone Wars, what was the final Clone Wars arc in the Lost Stories. But yeah, I love the Palpatine Dooku trying to break Yoda. Yoda has gone on this spiritual quest, and he is on Korriban, or Morabon as it's called then.
Yeah.
And I love.
This is the one when he like falls, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking about that one. I love that part of that scene there.
No, I just love that. I love whenever Palpatine like gets out his blue bowl of Sith magic, and he does cool stuff with it. Mm-hmm. We don't get to see that almost ever, But he does it here. He's like, we'll be given no red chance. And that was when it was Tim Curry, too. Yeah. So Tim Curry spoke a little more like this as Palpatine, It's a little different.
I liked his Palpatine better than his Chancellor.
No, I liked the previous guy a little bit more, but Tim's Palpatine. His Palpatine's not great. His Sidious is awesome, but his Palpatine's not the best. But I love him so much anyway. I didn't really care that much. But there was specifically something about the way that he's taunting Yoda, trying to break him, like even to the point like, I'm going to take Anakin Skywalker away from you. What are you going to do about it? And Yoda, has to overcome those feelings, but it has to be done in a way where Yoda can't see it before it happens, in a way, right? Like the feeling is there, the impending doom is there, but he looks at he looks at Sidious the way the 7 and 8-year-olds watch those movies. I can't see his face. You know, I think it's one of the few moments we actually get to see Sidious doing things, and the characters cannot see his face and experience who he is. You figure Yoda, as short he is, looking up into the sky, holding light,
right,
we'll be able to see it.
Look at that chin.
Yeah, look, I see him. I see that chin every Saturday when we go and we talk to the Chancellor. But no, he can't because this is a vision, and Palpatine won't let him.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
It's one of the few displays we get, not just of dark side power, but specifically Sith sorcery. And it's that Sith sorcery. You know, Ken Beaumont talks about it in Episode 9. It's like cloning Sith magic. I don't know how he's back, but it's something. So whenever we get like little elements into what Sith sorcery is and how Palpatine uses it, it's always up in my list. So that's my number 3.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Let's see. Number 4, I have as I took the Luke Palpatine scene from Return of the Jedi. Okay, you can take it. That's good. It's just I love the cadence he has. Like, there's different aspects. There's I'm afraid to be quite operational when your friends arrive.
Yeah, he's so mocking.
I love the way he plays that. And yeah, it is. It's like, there's nothing you can do. I'm going to win. You want this, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, and he is. And then as they fight and stuff, you get to you get the laughing thing. And there's those levels of him where it's like, I know I'm good right here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna win. I'm gonna mock you. Now I'm enjoying it.
Right.
And it just has that build up to the point to where it's like, all right, fine, I'm just gonna kill you now. And he just shocks him with lightning and stuff. And I was just,
dude, you ever think about, like, I wasn't robbed, but I never didn't know he could throw lightning.
I don't know.
Because I grew up just having already watched Star Wars, pretty much, is how I feel.
I feel like that, too, with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember not knowing, like, the Empire Strikes Back twist, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember not knowing, oh, he's his father? I didn't know that.
But could you imagine, like, watching Episode 6 in theaters? I mean, I don't know if there's anybody on the chat or in the audience that remember, but I can't think of how I would feel. Where it's like, this old man gets off, like, rise, my friend. I'm like, okay, this guy must be pretty badass. I mean, he's ordering Vader around, but he ain't no Vader. Look at Vader.
Yeah, right.
He's giant, huge, he's got a laser sword. Look, what's this guy got?
Yeah.
And and he's like mocking, and he's like, he's like mocking Luke. It's like, you can't. Luke's my hero. I'm gonna beat this guy down, and then he throws lightning at your face.
Yeah,
like, I wonder what it's like to have seen that for the first time. Had no idea that dude can throw lightning at you.
It's got to be a pretty.
It's
cool
got to
reveal,
be like,
right?
oh my god, okay, I get it.
No wonder.
I understand.
He's so strong.
Because before he's just like, he throws like, he just like takes off Luke's handcuffs. Like from afar away, and I'm like, I've seen Vader do more than that.
Yeah, Vader chokes people and stuff, or they communicate through
Luke
space.
Luke just choked some pigs early in the movie.
Yeah,
you know?
right. He just went like,
yeah, exactly. But no, he just lights them up. I just wonder how that felt in the theater the first time watching, because I never got it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But you're right. It's if you're gonna put all of that into one moment, all of the
I just love that. I was thinking about it too, and I was like, is that like one moment? Is that cheating and stuff? I don't know. I'm taking that. That's what I'm gonna do.
Sure.
And I love that.
Yeah.
And it also is the culmination of like where the original trilogy has been coming to, and you get that there where it's all built up, and like now the Emperor's here. He's the boss, and we get to finally really meet who this Emperor is. Not just he's talking as a hologram head, or he's like walking being like, you know, whatever. I forget what he says when he first gets there and stuff. But I remember Vader being like, "Oh, he's not as forgiving as I am." You know, I was like, "Oh, damn, who's this guy?" You know?
Okay, yeah.
And then you're just some old guy in a hood with a cane. You're like, who is this guy? So yeah,
I know Dave Filoni talks about in one of those Disney Gallery things that they do on Disney Plus. Talked about how afraid he was of the Emperor when he says the line, "You, like your father, are now mine," and how terrified it made him as a child to think that someone could own your dad. You know, like we are brought into this world looking for an authority figure, and it's generally your parents, and your parents can do anything. Your dad's the strongest person there is, and he can beat all other dads and all that stuff. And the idea that someone could take and own your dad is like the most, like, to an innocent child, is like, you've taken my power structure away. And that's terrifying. Like, so if Star Wars is, or at least was primarily a story for 8-year-olds, like, that's a pretty scary villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought Robbie had an interesting point, being like, probably the same way you feel when Kylo stops a blaster bolt in The Force Awakens, when he just freezes that blaster bolt.
Yeah, man.
Like, ooh,
that
wow.
was Dude, that was such a charged moment when we watched that the first time in theaters. Ugh.
Like that's probably the same idea of like the lightning.
I always remember like Poe like looking back at it like, hey, is that frozen?
Yeah, right.
No one's talked about that. You can do that.
That's strong.
Yeah.
All right. Do we go to your 2 or my 3?
Go to your 3.
My 3 is from Rebels. When Palpatine is like, you talk about his little bowl of blue magic, and he's reaching those hands and flames through the world between worlds. I just love it.
I know,
and you're like, they're just running away from him and stuff. And like that, I don't know why, but that part is so
I know why.
and cool.
It's because the world between worlds, when it was introduced, and we were shocked that this is something that could happen. Literally, when it happens, the worst thing that could happen would be if Palpatine found out about this. And guess what? Here comes the blue flames and the cackle. And you're like, oh, no.
No. Get out of here.
It's like discovering a powerful weapon, and then someone just like, oh, I'll take that. That's mine now. And the guy that takes it is already the most powerful person in the galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrifying. That's a good moment.
Yeah.
And it really feels like Ezra and Ahsoka escape
by the skin of their teeth. Oh, man, they're going to get caught.
Or I should say, push him out by the skin of their teeth.
Ezra at one point. Yeah. Like, Ahsoka had to save him and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I really enjoy that part.
Yeah.
Like whenever we first talk about like, hey, think about your top 5 Palpatine moments. Like one of the first ones I thought of was that scene.
Really?
I'm like, well, that needs to be one of my top 5.
Gotcha.
Because it's one of the first things that came to my mind is that one.
That's a great one.
All right. What's your number 2?
Number 2 is Sidious hears about the Shadow Collective on Mandalore and says, I'm going to go do something about that. It's Sidious versus Maul and Savage. Not only one of my favorite lightsaber fights, but also some of my favorite lines from Palpatine. Some of my favorite lines from Maul, like, there is no mercy. And he just lights him up like he lit up Luke. But
and the fight's so good,
The fight's so good because what it does, it captures the same feeling you get in Episode 3 when he finally can just stretch his Sidious muscle and like his voice is going in and out like, you now should be known as Darth Vader. like he hasn't spoken that way in a while, so it feels like it's coming to him and it's like washing over him.
Yeah.
And then when Yoda comes in, my little green friend, he's having too much fun.
Mm-hmm.
And in that fight with Maul and Savage, they cannot measure up to him. Both of them together are nothing to him, and he's having so much fun.
Yeah, he just wipes the floor with them,
I love that part when Savage or then they push him off the balcony. He goes, and he just grabs them. And they fall off too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. He's like a tornado, and way better tornado than the tornado he was in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
He just comes out.
No,
that one's scary.
I feel like we get to see so much more, and it's probably because it's animated, but we get to see so much more of that fight than we do of Episode 3.
And also, I mean, the Episode 3 fight, we'll get to our list of things we don't like about Star Wars too, but that's high up on my list. Sure. I think the Mace Palpatine fight's one of the worst lightsaber fights ever.
Sure. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'll take that Maul Savage fight
off your list.
Off my list.
What number was it?
It was one, but I'll maneuver some things. I have one extra one that I had written here, and I'll put it as number 2. And my number 2, I'll put
Irish Nexus. You're right. That's one of my favorite lines too. Like, there can only be 2 Lords of the Sith, and you are no longer my apprentice. You have become my rival.
No, it's such a good moment.
Yeah,
that's why I had that on there too, just because I love that fight. I feel like that really feeds Darth Maul's fear, especially later on in season 7 when he's like, he's gonna kill it. He's like freaking out. It's like, let me go. We're all gonna die.
And I always like to take those moments and try to okay, what does that inform us about the character that we didn't know before? Whenever he considers Maul a rival, he immediately goes out and kills him or takes him out of commission. Mm-hmm. That means that he considers no one else a rival. And if you get to that level, he'll do something about it. No. Think about all the people that he long conned for 20, 30 years. Yeah. He does not consider them a peer. He is above them always.
I think, too, is the thing you get there is Darth Maul, and we learn in season 7 for sure, is he has some awareness of what is going to happen, and he's like a loose thread that he hasn't planned for necessarily, right? Yeah. Whereas so many other aspects of it, whether they're other senators or the Jedi or whatever, he feels like he has a good control and can weave them to where he wants them to go. But Darth Maul is like a wild card that was supposed to have died back on Naboo, you know, and he didn't. And not only is he out there after Obi-Wan, he's doing other things that he's like, this is gonna mess some stuff up.
Yep.
and I can't have him affecting my chosen one. That's going to be my apprentice.
Yeah.
So no, it's a really good moment. It's really important to like that whole storyline, I think.
That was my number 2.
All right. Yeah. Well, then my number 2, I will pick from episode 3.
Oh my God. Okay.
Of we just had Anakin and Dooku fighting, and there's Palpatine enticing and convincing Anakin to do it.
Good, Anakin, good.
Now kill him.
Dooku's like, wait, huh?
Yeah, I know. The look that Dooku gives there is like...
Dooku's like, And he looks back at Anakin, And he looks back at like,
Yeah. Bitch, say what? It's that moment there where he's just like... It's another one of those feeding from like when we talked about the tale of Plagueis and stuff too, right? It's like, I'm pushing and prodding at Anakin. I will get him to fall to the dark side more and more. It's like, and it even leads, it really mirrors later on where it's kind of like, I really should have rested him. And then
it's not the Jedi way.
And you get like he's too dangerous to be left alive, from like Mace Windu and against Sidious. And you're kind of mirroring those moments and stuff there. And it's like, I really like that moment. It was kind of in my honorable mentions before, but I didn't know where I wanted to put it.
I love that one.
But it's a really good one. And there's so many times that we've just quoted like, do it.
And
like it's not exactly the same, but it makes me think of when he came out and he's like, roll it again.
Roll it again. Oh, dude, that was such a hype moment.
Like, that's not a Palpatine moment per se, but...
Yeah. Yeah, man, that moment's worth so many. It's worth 10, somehow Palpatine returned.
Yeah.
Roll it again.
But
could you possibly imagine if, I don't know how, obviously they had to do it that way, but if they never, ever said anything about Palpatine returning, and the first time you sit there and the credits roll and it says, the dead speak, Emperor Palpatine has returned, everybody in the thing like, what? Like, that'd be kind of an interesting moment. Like, the title, the Star Wars title, is the one, you've seen 9 of these things.
Yeah.
And for the first time ever, it got you.
Yeah.
That would have been really cool, but I can understand them being like, there's no way we can keep this a secret.
It's either that or, like, the marketing of this will be better for us to get stuff out there,
Yeah.
So.
But there's in an alternate world where they said nothing about it. I think that people would go, like, obviously it would be one of those things that's spoiled immediately by people. But for people like us that, want to stay unspoiled as much as possible, what a moment that would have been.
Oh, yeah. Would have been great.
It would have been like the Grogu moment. Like,
oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, there's a Baby Yoda.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my God. How did they lost so much money by not marketing this. And they did.
Yeah.
And then they made it back.
Got it back.
And then they're like, oh, man, we immediately need to bring him back into Book of Boba Fett.
So, all right. Well, that's my number 2. I'm fairly confident my number 1 won't be your number 1. So
okay.
I think I'm good. So
all right. My number 1 is Palpatine tempts Ezra at the Lothal Temple.
No, I'm kidding.
My God, okay.
From the Lothal Temple?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the hologram Palpatine that's like digital makeup, because we know he doesn't look like that anymore. But he'll make himself appear to that. Maybe he like video conferences into like certain like delegations and stuff, looking real nice, But then you have those elements where like it flickers and you see the devil under him. It's very Lucifer Morningstar. The devil comes to you as an angel and then burns you with his fire later.
Yeah.
Ah, man, so good. Mm-hmm. When you can do something new with Palpatine, and that felt new when that happened. I was just so excited. And
he does like force from across the galaxy, right? Because like he take off his cuffs.
He takes off his cuffs,
or he like pushes a button or does stuff.
Exactly.
He's been Coruscant,
Yeah. Like in episode 6 when he takes off loose cuffs, it's like, well, you're right there,
Yeah.
But if he did that from,
Naboo.
Yeah, exactly, Naboo, I'd be like, huh?
Heck, even on Endor, right? Like if he'd have been on Endor, I'd be like, and then his cuffs fell off, I'd be like, whoa. What?
I mean, to be fair, Vader did choke Ozzel like from like a system away. He was in the same system, but they were pretty far away.
Space, sure,
but this is Lothal to, I assume, Coruscant.
You're probably taking hyperspace to get like for a little bit.
Like there's no lag in the Force, like it didn't like. You know how the speed of light is meant to be like the speed limit, like even gravity doesn't would travel at the speed of light. Like if the sun went out right now, it takes 8 minutes for light to get to us, right? So we wouldn't know for 8 minutes. Mm-hmm. So some people will think like, okay, well we would know though because it would like we could feel the Earth just leave the orbit, right? It's like, no, the Earth will spin around nothing for 8 minutes because gravity can't hit you yet. But the Force apparently has no speed limit. It happens instantaneously. So yeah, it's a powerful moment, and I just, like I said, I just love when Palpatine is a tempter, a deceiver, a liar. But the only way for that to work is if it feels like it's true. Yeah, or like he is going to happen. Like whenever he says, "Rise, my friend," in Episode 6, every time I watch, I'm like, "Oh yeah, he's buddies. They're buddies." You know, they're not buddies. He thinks so low of Vader. You know, but he lies to you.
But it makes him feel better, or makes you feel more confident, or you know, oh, okay, he's my friend, and okay.
And I'm like Palpatine knows what Ezra's gone through so far in the World Between Worlds. He knows that, like I would assume, he knows that there is a possibility you could be with your parents again. So when he throws that temptation out there, like he's not lying in a way. Like he might be able to do it. He will screw you over, of course. Ezra might not know the levels in which he'll lie and screw you over, but as a viewer, I have to believe that, well, if Ezra does take this deal, like there might be a chance that does happen. Palpatine might reward him for it. You never know.
Yeah.
So he's just because he looks more like kind Ian McDiarmid in white pajamas. I go, oh, maybe trust him. He's the devil of Star Wars. Don't trust him.
Don't trust him. No.
So that's my number one moment. I don't know why. It just is. I think of that moment all the time. I watch that scene a lot.
Yeah. No, it's really good, and it's great for Ezra. Like I love that scene for Ezra. I love that because like what he gives up in that moment, or what he's tempted by that he gives up, I guess. Because I don't know if he could have really been given anything like that. It felt like it was all just a trick, But it also kind of it makes you think of like Clone Wars and the prequels of like the old Palpatine who just looked like this and would talk to you face to face, but really underneath all that's the Emperor that's hiding, and it's just cool to have that within that hologram and have it flicker and stuff. It's really cool. It was done very well in that animation style that they did. Like I don't know if you could have done it, I guess, in live action, but it was just so neat to have that hologram thing. Yeah. All right.
We got a number one for you.
My number one.
Yes.
My number one. I can't really name it from being like from a specific one thing.
Okay.
And it's also kind of a weird, unique one, I think. This is from Palpatine, where he is met against, I think, the only thing that he may not have ever been able to defeat. Right? Like, Palpatine takes on a lot of stuff, and he beats everything he ever comes across.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing he could never beat is the Zillo Beast.
The Zillo Beast!
And he...
I was sitting over here going like, what's his number one? We've covered everything great.
The Zillo Beast is this creature that shows up, and it takes him, and they're trying to save him, and I don't think he could have beat this thing.
Yeah.
And when it finally goes down, he decides to use it, and he sends it away for cloning and stuff, and it happens, and they do that.
Yep.
So it's not necessarily one like moment, but it's the fact that he finds something that I don't think he could control, but once he has access to it, he's going to use it to every advantage he can. Yeah. And I feel like that's what Palpatine does with everything he can find, right?
Something ancient, an ecosystem that should not be disturbed, like the Republic, like the Jedi, like the Zillo Beast, and on that was on the Dug planet, right?
Yeah, Malastare.
Malastare. And he discovers it, finds it, dissects it, studies it, clones it, takes it for himself.
Yeah.
I mean, Palpatine is nothing if not the most egotistical politician. Well, I know some pretty egotistical politicians, but he's like the most egotistical character in Star Wars. Everything is like he's the opposite of a Jedi. It's not I fight so that you may have these passions. Like no, I want the passions, and I want this and that, and your chosen one, and your government, and all of your money, and your people, and your son, and your father. It's all mine. Everything,
all of it.
You're Godzilla.
Yeah,
I'm taking your Godzilla too.
But he's faced with this one, and it's like he's held by it. I don't even think like if he used all of his Sith powers, I don't know if he could have done anything with it, right? Like lightsabers weren't affecting it, Like it took a lot to take.
Well,
this
what would
down.
Palpatine do against like that thing in the in Solo when they're doing the
inside the Kessel Run?
In the Kessel Run,
right?
Like he can't do anything against that, right?
I don't know. Could you electrify it? I don't know.
I mean, maybe you could do like a.
They
try
to
but
they threw it in a black hole.
Yeah, like I don't think you could do anything about that. So there are things more powerful than him, but
but I love
just stay out of black holes.
I think one is just like I love the fact that it was used and came back, but two, like it just I think this also encapsulates, and this is originally this one was in my number 2, and the other one was the Mall Sauvage one was my number 1.
Yeah.
But I think that really encapsulates him, and like I will use everything I can at my disposal to get whatever advantages I can, which includes where he's not just like trying to make sure he's more powerful, but also, like you said, like I'm going to take your chosen one and make him my apprentice. Yeah. I'm going to take your Jedi crystal making planet and turn it into a bigger Death Star. You know, like that's the things he would do.
I'm going to take this blessed force dyad, drain it, and I'm going to take your body. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, you have a secret granddaughter out there. Oh, cool. I'm taking her body. I'm taking everything.
I'm going to take everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think you had two, like you did it for this reason and that reason, and your third reason is you held a candle for that Zillo Beast for so long, and I'd given up hope. But that moment when that came out and you're like, it's a Zillo Beast. I'm like, no, it's not. And then it was the Zillo Beast.
The Zillo Beast.
That was a triumph of the human spirit.
And I don't think the story's done with it yet.
Yeah.
I hope they bring it back again.
I think
more.
Everybody else abandoned the Zillo Beast. Like, it's not ever happening. You're like, no, it's coming back. It's coming back. And then,
thank you, Dave.
Yeah. Jim, what a moment.
So
I forget about that moment sometimes, but when I remember, it's a good memory.
I jumped around. I usually don't jump around or anything.
I know. Yay! All right. Well, that was fun. That was a good discussion about good old Sheev Palpatine.
Yeah. And if you guys have any favorite moments that maybe we didn't mention, you can toss them in the questions and stuff too, and maybe we talk about those. But yeah, we have a little bit of time.
Let's do some
probably
questions.
touch on some questions from Star Wars. They don't have to be about Lords of the Sith. They could cover some other things as well. But we'll see what you guys have and what you guys want to talk about. Sarah Jane Calvert says, "Why does Palpatine hate the Jedi? Why does the epitome of selfishness care about the revenge of the ancient Sith? I realize the Jedi are an obstacle to unlimited power, but why is it so personal?"
I mean, we don't know the exact philosophies of the Sith, right? We don't know their exact tenets, but if it's about achieving power and not sharing power, the only way you can do that is if you win or you die, and most Sith die. Sure. So they have to, like, the rule of two isn't like this genius idea. It's like we have to at least have one friend to share stuff with in case we die, you know? And I think Palpatine, like, I think that he is a student of that philosophy, but he found that there is an endpoint to this, and it just so happens to be me, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that what he's doing is that he, like I am all the Sith. When he says that, that's not necessarily, I mean, it isn't an egotistical statement, because it's 100% true. The guy can back it up.
Sure. The Sith, there was whatever the Sith were, and then it came down to, I guess in theory, Bane.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that is canon right now, but a Bane existed at some point, and whatever he did is maybe canon or maybe not. But and then he passed it down one by one by one. So everything the Sith are is what he is. So that is true. And the Jedi and the Sith have been at war in the past. So I think, yes, there's an obstacle segment of that is like, I have to take them out in order to do this. And because he doesn't and he fails at that, he ultimately loses in the future, right? But I don't know. It could also just be an ego thing too. Like he has been built up by the Sith to be what he is now. Yeah. And he believes so highly in himself that to kind of even just mock them. I will defeat them with their own army, with their own everything. Yeah. And it's almost it's not a selfishness in him, but it's an egotistical, like, I'm going to trick them so much with this proxy war and their army and turn everything against them to now they're the bad guys. They thought they were the heroes. They thought they were saving everybody, but now everyone believes them to be the villains. Yeah. And that's the goal I think he has. Not even just like destroying them, but destroying like their legacy. Yeah.
It's like the perfect combination of ego and ambition. Yeah. Right? Like, you ever hear stories or you watch The Last Dance documentary about Michael Jordan. Like, thank God Michael Jordan had something to pour his ego and ambition into, or else he probably would have ruled the world. Like, you know, like some people will, like, I have to be the best, and I am fiercely competitive. Like, think about Palpatine. He's the most powerful Force user we've ever seen, pretty much.
Yeah.
I know that there's some of the legend stuff. We have, like, Vietate from the Old Republic and Nihilus, but, I mean, he's one of, and if at the very least in movie canon, the most powerful person we've ever seen. He is the best politician. He's the best lightsaber fighter we've seen. Like, no one's come close. Like, he is the best at everything, so he deserves everything. That's how he thinks. Like, it makes for a fun character, but also, like, because he's so good at those things, it also can be incredibly funny, some of the stuff that he says, because, like, the only way that humor works is if he can kind of back it up, and he can. He can back it up.
Sure.
So, and even when you kill him, he's still like, you don't think I planned for dying?
Yeah. I have plans.
Yeah. Like, I had plans on plans.
Yeah.
The old legends, I had plans. In the canon, I have plans.
Yeah.
He has multiversal plans.
That was one of the things, too. Like, I know there were people upset about being like, oh, he's cloning himself. And no, they never said that anywhere. It's like, well, I mean, I never saw any evidence of another Death Star in Return of the Jedi until they showed another Death Star in Return of the Jedi. Yeah, You know? Like, they didn't. There wasn't Empire Strikes Back, and they were like, "Hey, by the way, I'm going to be working on this."
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so like, I think it's silly to not think that he is trying to make plans of whatever he has, any contingency. And he had some where it's like, "All right, well, if I die, I'll be a clone. Well, and if I die, I'm going to kill everything."
Yeah.
You know, like,
I mean, it's the natural progression from Episode 3. Like, he could even save the ones he cared about from dying.
Yeah. And as you said before.
Yeah, but not himself. Palpatine can save himself because that's what he cares about.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, it's kind of ridiculous to think that he didn't do that. I remember, I don't know, in this last year reading an article that was from 1983 and someone being like, do we really believe the Emperor is dead from this? Do you really think that this person, like, he's got to be still alive somehow? It's ridiculous if he's not.
From Episode 9?
No, from Episode 6 when it came out in 1980, 3 or whatever. There was a newspaper article.
Just when there were only 3 movies.
When there was 3 movies, and that Palpatine was, he's a whole different character in Episode 5, but he's introduced and he dies in that movie. I remember there's it's either I don't think it's a fan letter. I think it's a movie critic talking about how he didn't really buy it, and it's like, I don't know. The Emperor didn't really do it for me. It really feels like they're setting this up for him to come back later, but we'll see,
Sure.
I just thought it was really funny to read that and then also read the responses of people being like, it's ridiculous that he's back.
Sure. No, I think so too.
Yeah.
Like, I really believe contingencies he would take, and like, it makes sense. Especially
but, I mean,
with all the canon stuff we have.
Yeah, and I don't want to like...
But we have more knowledge.
We do.
Than maybe just movie watchers have too.
Sure.
Right?
And even if you did not like that doesn't, mean like, well, this guy said it back then, so you're wrong. Like, you can still have taste on like how it was done.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And
I think I don't like that it just, they had a Fortnite event where they could have just like, fucking don't do that. Come on. So
I think there's
stuff about I don't like too, but
I think there's things in the sequel trilogy that you can complain about, but the fact that he was cloning himself, I don't think is one of those to complain about.
It's
in my
Star Wars vernacular for 20 years before that.
Sure.
I mean, there's a famous story where George Lucas liked Dark Empire so much he gave copies of it to like all of Lucas film like as a Christmas gift.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the dude liked it. He still never considered it his canon, but at the very least he was, oh, that's cool. Luke fell the dark side. That's cool. That's cool.
If only Sheev would have played basketball, we wouldn't have had like a crazy Emperor Palpatine, right?
If he learned it because of the Michael Jordan thing.
Absolutely.
I mean, even when you look at like I like to look at clips of like Kobe Bryant and people talking about stories about him and how like even when he was 17, 18, like he would just like look at you obsessively. Hey, I'm coming. You wait. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be at the top. And that dude got to the top, just sheer determination. So you can do that in good ways, and you can do that in bad ways. I'm sure Alexander the Great was, I'm coming. I'm going to be there.
I'll be there.
Wait.
I'll be on the top. Robbie148 says, any chance we'll ever get a tour of Eric's collection?
It's going to happen. Honestly, I need to clean it up because I did a pretty big organizational thing whenever I got like everything here, and it's grown even since then, and the organization that I had and how it's displayed is kind of bloated now, so I gotta change some things around. But once I do that, we should do like a true blue. Here's everything, and go through some stuff. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be neat. Even just taking like different like sections of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Be like, all right, guys, we're gonna show Clone Wars today.
Yeah.
What do we have for Clone Wars, Eric?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not obviously not complete. Like I'm not Rancho Obi-Wan, but
what
if you would give me
there's more?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But like I think it's kind of fascinating that I can go through 30 years of collecting and pick out, okay, I'm going to show you 10 different versions of Palpatine, just Palpatine, and how cool the sculpts and the ideas and like what this face looks like from 77, from 1980s to this sculpt looked like in the prequels to the sculpts that we have now. Like they're pretty interesting to see this kind of like history of toy making going from primarily something for kids to play to primarily something for adults to look at.
Sure.
It's kind of what it's become.
When you do that, are you looking at like, here's a Return of the Jedi from when it first came out?
Yeah.
Versus here is a Episode 3 Palpatine?
I mean,
or
you can do that, but I can literally go.
Here's a Return of the Jedi 2003 version.
Yeah.
Here's a 2020 Return of the Jedi
Return of the Jedi Luke. Let's use that as an example.
Okay.
Luke in the black with the green lightsaber.
Yeah.
I can show you different iterations of that action figure and how wildly different they are from line to line to line. Power of the Force line at a certain point, everybody was just fucking jacked in He-Man.
I know those, yeah.
Like Han Solo has like his shirt open and you can just see abs and shit. Chewie was jacked.
Chewie?
Yeah, everybody's jacked.
How do you get a jacked Chewie?
Like
He's
Leia looks jacked.
All right.
So that was the year of everybody being jacked. Okay. I'll have to find. I think Palpatine's in there, but he's not.
Is that like the later 90s?
That was Power of the Force.
I feel like that's a 90s thing.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
It's not late 90s. Yeah, it's right before Episode 1 comes out because there was even some Episode 1 stuff in the later Power of the Force.
Just Jack Qui-Gon Jinn?
No, it wasn't jacked
okay.
at that point. I wish it was, but no.
Jack young Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
Jack Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, that was more of when the special editions came out.
Okay.
In the late 90s is when everybody was just jacked like He-Man. But they also had some great stuff, great vehicles, great accessories.
Yeah.
Nothing will ever compare to the Phantom Menace and how much stuff they put out. They put out so much stuff.
I wish. Do you have any thoughts on like? I was thinking about this the other day, where I was like, I wish that Disney Plus would put on like the different iterations of like the original trilogy.
Yeah. I'd love to see that.
Just because, like, I'd love to show my kids, like, okay, here's what it originally looked like, right? Like, here's the snow speeder on Hoth. You can still see the AT-ATs on the edges because, like, they had to do it in a different way. But then later, when they got to, some more digital versions that they could do and stuff too, they filled that in and changed it up. Or, like Bespin used to be hallways, not windows.
Just enclosed hallways. Yeah, I would like to. I mean, if only because I think that it's important to see different things. Like, we think of the original trilogy and George Lucas, writing it and thinking about it and be like, oh, man, what an achievement that guy went through. But he for so long, was thinking, like, I hate watching that part. That's not what I wanted,
Sure, right.
And they can't do it. They can't get what's in my head. So I love the idea of an artist going and trying to get closer to their vision. Or, sometimes, we've talked about it a little bit last time about Badonkagonk, like, he was a different person when he got to that point, and he might be like, you know what? I don't want Han Solo to be just a guy that shoots you. And he shoots first, I want him to respond this time. I don't really like that I did that. I think that anybody can have their own taste and be like, I like the version it originally was, or they can be like, no, I like it now where it's Greedo shoots first and then Han shoots, and then they kind of like arrived at this weird spot where they shoot the exact, like if you watch it now on Disney Plus,
it's like the same time.
They shoot the exact same time.
McClunky.
Yeah, McClunky. Yeah, I love McClunky. Like that's a great addition. McClunky. What?
Why?
This is the end of you, I think, is what it is in Huttese. But it looks bad. Like the way they have Harrison Ford's head just like slide in After Effects from this point to this point, just it looks terrible. So yeah, I'd like to see the other version sometimes, but I'm fine with it too.
What do you think about Disney if they decided to do? Because like there was people that were like trying to petition for like remake the sequel trilogy. It was it's terrible. We shouldn't do it. What do you think about like if they did like a special edition of the sequel trilogy? Because I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, there's times we talked about, like, especially like episode 9, where it's like, man, I wish they would have done this. And I was like, you know what? I think you could do that in like a special edit.
Yeah.
And like digitally add in like Force Ghost behind Rey when she's like, I'm all the Jedi, and you really get a feeling of like all the Jedi are there. Yeah. And I think it would like amp it up a little bit more. Yeah. But like, you know, they added in little things here and there, but do you think a special edition of like the Disney trilogy could be a thing?
I mean, see, here's the thing, like, are they doing it just to sell more DVDs? Because sometimes you feel like special edition was kind of like that a little bit. But also, Lucas is trying to get it back out there because he's about ready to ramp up production of the prequels, and he needs to get investors involved because there's a lot of money now. You know, there's a lot of stuff there.
Sure.
Disney, if they did it and just put it up on Disney Plus, and I don't have to buy it again, yeah, I'd watch it, you know. But I kind of feel like the special editions, I could see maybe for the prequels.
The prequels?
The sequels, I don't feel like anything was done that they didn't, like, oh, you know, I couldn't really achieve that look. Like, well, you can achieve pretty much anything you want to these days. You know, Lucas, even in the prequel trilogy, there's some things that he wasn't super happy with. Like, it just didn't come out the way I had it in my head.
Like going to Mos Espa and going through Tatooine, like, it's like, well, I can't show it all the way I want to show it. So now I can do it more digitally and show more things.
But what I will say, maybe my only caveat is I don't think it should be done without it being incepted and done by the original artist. Like, I think if you're going to do it for the prequels...
don't bring in someone new.
If you're going to do it for the prequels, it should be incepted and done by George Lucas. He is the only one that gets to say, hey, my art, I want to change it.
So, like, if, Abrams and, like...
Rian Johnson.
Like, if they came in and, like...
Yeah, I know that's a weird caveat, and it kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense now I'm thinking about it, but I don't know. I feel like they need to... Like, that's their piece of art, and if you're going to change it, it needs to come through them and not someone else. That's why I respect different artists coming in doing different things. Even if it's something that I wouldn't do, it's like, well, of course I wouldn't do it. I didn't make this. Another artist did. What are they trying to tell me about Star Wars, about these characters through their lens? You know, I'm not going to change that. But if Dave Filoni could, hey, guys, I actually changed Luke from Mandalorian. You know, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni come out and say, Mandalorian Season 2 Luke doesn't look that great. We can make it look way better now. We're just going to put up a version that has the better looking Luke on it. I'd be like, that makes sense. Go do that.
Sure.
You know? So I'd do something like that.
But they're like, hey, you know, we decided that we're going to cast someone to be the Luke, and we're going to put him there instead. Would that be okay?
I think so, because it was a deep fake. You know, it's not like they're replacing. You know, it's more problematic when you replace Sebastian Shaw in Episode 6 with Hayden Christensen that didn't even know he was being filmed. You know?
Yeah, sure. I wish they would have just gotten Hayden and filmed a...
And while I still am like, well, this is what Lucas wanted, I'm still there. I'm very glad that they didn't reshoot, like, when they take the helmet off. And because it's never a two-shot, it's always one shot over the shoulder of Luke, you could easily shoot Hayden Christensen doing those lines and having makeup on and being like, tell your sister you were right, you know? You could do that. I don't want him to, though, you know, because that's me. But But I don't know. I mean, maybe it would be better if Lucas wanted to do that. I don't know.
No,
I can't make that decision. I still get a little weirded out every time I'm watching Episode 5 and Ian McDermott pops up.
Oh, really?
He's just kind of sitting there like, you know, like
for the hologram?
In the hologram. Because I always remember the old one.
I don't think about it at all when I watch it. Yeah. No, I feel like...
The son of Skywalker must not become a Jedi.
I feel like it gels much better having Ian McDermott being
I think it does. Know? But what I mean is, like, I'll always think about it.
Sure.
So if let's say Lucas comes out of retirement, once like, I'm doing another special edition, fuck y'all, you know? And he puts Hayden Christensen in that role with Luke, like, I would be like, hey, don't do that. But if he did it, I'm like, hey, man, it's your story, go for it. But I would never watch that scene and not think about this used to be Sebastian Shaw.
Sure.
Just like I never watched that ghost scene and don't think about this used to be Sebastian Shaw. But your kids will look at that and be like, that's Anakin.
Oh, there's Anakin. Yeah.
Which means Lucas is right. Because that's what you're supposed to see. When I watched as a kid, I'm like, who's that guy?
I did.
And I'd be like, it must be Anakin because it doesn't look, you know, it can't be.
Well, who else could it be, right? No, I remember doing the same thing. I'm like, oh, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and that guy?
Yeah, who's that guy? Yeah.
No, I remember doing
that. And I'm sure Lucas heard that in the theater, like, who's that guy? Son of a bitch. One day I'll fix this.
No, I believe that's probably true, too.
So I'll have to, you know, we'd have to ask, like, J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson, Gareth Edwards, the people that are doing it now, like, hey, if you could go back and do your special edition, what would you change?
Is there anything you would change? Because I feel like having done lightsaber fights and stuff too, like lots of times you get in, you're like, all right, this is good. But I feel like there's always like, I would change that if I could.
Yeah,
Sure. But it's that idea too of like, you never finish your art, it just escapes kind of idea, right? Yeah. But I don't know. I just thought about it one day where I'm like, is that an idea? Is that something? And I also thought about like people complaining about the sequel trilogy. And it's like, is there a way to appease to some of those people by being like, well, let's fix a couple of things that like maybe we could have done a little better with this and this, but it ultimately doesn't change the story too much. But maybe it adds like a little extra scene or whatever the case is. Because like I remember like the Wampa scene was entirely different.
Oh yeah, way different.
But. And Bespin was another one where it's like there was so much more that was added to Cloud City, especially between things flying outside to seeing these windows to
the Ewoks blink now.
Yeah, Ewoks blinking.
There's a Doug in the background in Jabba's palace. There's a lot of little stuff there. Yeah. Pork chop.
Sorry. Anyway, Jedi Bob. Yeah, put Jedi Bob in there.
Jedi Bob. Yeah, you gotta put Jedi Bob in there.
I don't know how much time we have. We have maybe enough time for one more question.
Okay.
Okay. Jason Winston Jr. says, hey, guys, I love the stream. With Sith Lord characteristics, what Sith Lord characteristics or traits do you love to hate?
Ooh. Do you love to hate? That's a good question. I mean, power for power's sake. I get its utility in a fairy tale, but I'm much more. It's much more interesting to watch like Dooku in Tales of the Jedi fall to the dark side because he thinks he's doing the right thing than it is to just like, well, Palpatine. I don't think Palpatine thinks he's doing the right thing. I think that he is trying to rule everything.
Sure.
And I think he knows that's not right, but he doesn't care. Anakin thinks that he does the right thing by hey, I'm confronted with evidence the Jedi suck, and we're gonna have to get rid of them because they'll never stop. They're gonna assassinate. If even a single Jedi survives, we're gonna die. Is what Palpatine tells him. And that makes sense. So he gets in there and he's like, all right, well, I am the best duelist in the Order. I'm gonna take out all these Jedi, and then I get I open this door and oh my God, there's a bunch of kids. I forgot about the kids.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to think about my kid, and I got to think about my wife, and then he's stuck in that, That's terrifying, and some people would say, it's too much. He's already killing kids, But I find that more interesting than the more, just power for power's sake like Palpatine is.
Sure.
But Palpatine is in himself so much fun as a force of nature to watch that I'd love to hate his rhetoric.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I get what you mean. Like I'd say, out of especially if I'm thinking about the main Star Wars kind of villain guys and stuff, my least favorite is probably Grievous. Just because with Dooku, and Dooku may have been added on more as it went on, but not really because Episode 2, he's talking about how the Jedi and everything, they're being corrupted by the dark side. Yeah. The Sith is really.
I wish Qui-Gon was here now.
Yeah, there's all those kind of elements there, and you get more of that from Tales of the Jedi where you see his fall and see him seeing these things that the Jedi are doing for Republic and for greed and for money, basically, even if they're not saying that that's why they're doing it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. You see the fall of Vader. Darth Maul's in a similar boat to Grievous where we don't really know where he comes from or anything, but he's so fun, and his craziness that he has in Clone Wars is so fun to mess with and see. And there's, even though he's just bad and evil, there's a fun thing there too. Whereas Grievous, I don't really know much about him. He's very just kind of I'm a bad guy and I'm kind of menacing because I'm a big robot dude and I cough a lot.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at Maul, Dooku, Palpatine, Grievous, Vader, when I think of the bigger villains of Star Wars, Grievous has always been one where I'm well, he's okay. Mm-hmm. He's not my favorite of the villains and stuff too. Yeah. He always just runs away because he's a coward.
Yeah.
So, but part of that could be that I don't have as much backstory with him as some other characters.
Yeah.
But I don't have a lot of backstory for Darth Maul either, and I like Darth Maul a lot. But maybe that's my nostalgia bias from Episode 1
think
talking.
So. He's also a lot more fleshed out now, so you bring that with you when you rewatch Episode 1.
Sure. But think of everything we have of Grievous.
Sure.
From Episode 3 to him in Clone Wars, I don't feel like we got much more on him as a whole either,
Sure. Now, I could also answer this question in a different way, which is because Star Wars is a fairy tale, the bad guys have to be overly bad.
Clearly, that's a bad guy.
Yeah, like they use terms like we use the dark side of the Force, and like any intelligent person is going to be like, we're the bad guys then, right? Like you want your bad guys to think they're the good guys. You want them to have passions and thoughts and rationality that what they're doing is the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. But when they throw around terms like use the dark side and, like the ultimate evil, like bad guys generally don't call themselves evil.
Yeah. Sure.
But because it's a fairy tale, that's some of the strengths of characters like the Sith, because children can look at them and instantly tell if they're bad or not, but also that's the brilliance of what Lucas did for the prequels, because he took the ultimate movie bad guy, Darth Vader, and made you care. Mm-hmm. He made 6-year-olds care about it, which is, some crazy stuff. Yeah. And you can't do that without a devil character and angelic characters like the Jedi. You know?
So you need to have Sidious be there and be enticing and be tempting and all that kind of stuff.
And it's got to be a little overboard. Like if I'm watching not a Star Wars movie its tone is much more adult themed, then I'm going to feel like that's a little more corny. Mm-hmm. But I'm not. I'm watching a space movie with wizards. Mm-hmm. And that's the bad wizard.
That's the bad wizard, yeah. I think as far as for the question itself, because I didn't really answer it, but I don't know if I have any like specific Sith Lord traits or characteristics where I'm just like, I hate that. Like,
do you wish that they were able to use different color lightsabers, or you like just having red for them? It's a cool idea. Red guys, bad.
Sure, but good guys aren't just always blue or something,
I can clearly remember. It was my senior year of high school, and Episode 3 was coming out. My birthday was May 17th, and the movie came out May 19th. And some of my friends from high school, like the table that I sat at, got me a Star Wars birthday cake, like that, like on one of those days. And on it, they had a General Grievous action figure fighting like an Obi-Wan action figure. And it was cool. And one of the girls at the table was like, who's the bad guy? Don't they use red? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Lucas knows what he's talking about because you don't know which is which.
True, yeah. Well, because Grievous steals their lightsabers.
He does,
them,
yeah.
Right?
And that makes sense, but it is one of those things where it's like, he's not using red. What's going on?
The one thing always bothered me was, I'm pretty sure, the original trilogy, TIE fighters shoot green bolts, right?
Yeah.
And the Falcon shot red bolts.
And the
X-Wing shot red bolts. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why don't they shoot green? They shoot red.
Yeah.
They already have red lightsabers.
But the Stormtroopers shoot red, and everybody else, like the clones, shoot blue.
Yeah. Like, oh, man, I don't understand how this works.
No, I know. So. As long as it's consistent in the battle sphere itself. Like, the TIE fighters always do this way, it works.
Sure.
Yep.
But, no, I don't know. I don't think it matters if they have only red.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me one way or another.
Because,
like you said, Grievous.
As long as they're not dark sabers, I'm fine with it.
And you have Fallen Jedi sometimes, and they use them. Like I was wondering what, Balin, is that right?
Balin Skull.
I was wondering what saber he was going to use.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure exactly where he was going to be set whenever we heard about him and stuff like that too. And then trailers and things showed red lightsaber. I'm like, okay, well, I guess.
Technically, it's like a deep orange.
Oh, is it?
It also has like more orange core, but. Like, if you compare it to, say, Anakin's Vision red lightsaber, it's a little different, Yeah.
But I don't think it bothers me either way.
Yeah. All right.
All right. It's after 5 now, guys, so that's probably going to be it for this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
As I said before, we'll be back. December 14th will be the next Badonkagonk
December
podcast.
14th.
So we will be preparing and going through, what's the book, Eric?
The book is called Queen Shadow by E.K. Johnson. I'll be listening to it on Audible.
So if you want to join us for that one, you can go through that book along with us. We'll be talking about it and taking some questions and stuff with that one as well, and having some other Star Wars topics that we want to talk about. So if you guys have any thoughts or anything with that, make sure you leave comments on this here on YouTube, and we will see what other topics we want to cover.
Absolutely.
Next month.
And as many of you probably noticed, this was our first time streaming to both Twitch and YouTube at the same time. So if you're watching this on YouTube later in the comments section, maybe put down in the comments what are some top 5s or some discussion topics that you'd like us to cover, and it might be something that we select to do in a future Badonkagonk.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, that's going to be all for us for this time. We'll see you guys next month for our last of 2023 podcast for Badonkagonk. So,
man, okay.
All right, guys.
We have a lot. Oh, man, we have to talk about what's coming up then the next year because there's a lot of cool stuff coming.
A lot of cool stuff.
Especially with today being the official end of the SAG strike.
Mm-hmm.
Some stuff's coming. Acolyte, Skeleton Crew. Yeah.
Excited for those. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much. We hope you guys have a good weekend, and we'll see you guys next month.
Yep.
Until then, may the Force be with you.
Always.